She went under the wheels.
How perfected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
And today we are going to talk about Death Stranding.
Coronavirus. Death Stranding.
We're going to talk about what happens after the coronavirus stranding, the EE that is the coronavirus occurs on our planet.
No, the coronavirus is just the initial thing. The EE is the toilet paper epidemic. We'll be fighting giant monsters made out of toilet paper.
Should we just announce spoilers immediately so we can make jokes about it?
Oh yeah, we're gonna be spoiling the entirety of Death Stranding later on in the podcast once we get past the usual what have you been watching lately and stuff.
Oh, I was ready to spoil it right now with a really bad joke, but yeah. I think after the what have you been watching, we'll just take the reins off of it, and you can learn all about who is Sam Porter Norman Reedus Bridges.
I know. I'm kind of curious. Hold on one second, because I want to see how many people have
don't like Death
completed
Stranding?
the game. Well, no, have gotten to the end, because part of it's I'm sure there's a lot, because you can always check the trophies. So let's see.
I'm partially curious as well, but it's weird because it feels like a game that you really can kind of almost complete it at any point, as long as you don't care about some of the superfluous elements of it. Because how many 5-star locations did you get in the course of trying to beat the game?
0. I didn't 5-star any locations.
Did you get any location above 3 stars?
Yeah, I got a few to 4 stars.
Okay. I started doing it just for the upgraded items, because I was like, fuck this shit.
Is there a way I can look up without having to log on to my PlayStation?
Not
what the completion rate is?
Just open up PlayStation mid-podcast. Yeah. Not that I know of.
Oh, here we go. psnprofiles.com/trophies. Let's take a look. Oh, it says 50% of people have completed episode 14. So
okay.
Wait, hold on. No, actually 30%.
30%? Wow.
Yeah.
To put it into perspective, how many people have completed Red Dead Redemption?
I'm pretty sure everyone who's played it has completed it, unless they're I don't know, offended by it or something.
I don't know.
Or they got tired of leaping off their horse to guns a-blazing, only to find out after the fact that all their items are still on their horse and that they only have their revolver. I assume we're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2, not 1, right?
Yes, yeah. I'm guessing that happened to you multiple times through your playthroughs, Gabe.
Dude, I fucking hated that. Okay, Red Dead Redemption 2 is an amazing game, but it's way too realistic, all right? I do not want to have to, a gunfight has started, scramble for your life, and then, hold on, let me get off my horse, cycle through my horse's saddlebag to get out all the guns I'm going to need and all the items I'm going to need for this. I just want it to be like RDR1, where I leap off the horse, do a dive roll on the ground. I have a shotgun hidden in my jeans pocket, and everything I need is just there. I don't have to be oh shit, I forgot my shotgun on my horse, which is now run away because it's scared of gunfire.
That brings up a whole nother argument about
So now I'm cowering behind a log, whistling, so I can get my shotgun.
To, trot over to you while it's getting blown the shit out by gunfire.
I know.
Yeah, I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2 yet, so all of that stuff is foreign to me. I heard they're oh yeah, you got to take warming yourself up really seriously and the survival elements, and I was like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, you can freeze to death in that game.
Yeah. In this, you can go into autotaxemia, but anyway.
Anyway, what have you been watching lately, Matt?
I was in the process of rewatching Haywire. I'm right near the end. Is it safe to say that we both like Steven Soderbergh as a director?
I think it's safe to say that.
On a scale of if you gave him an Under the Wheels rating, what kind of rating would you give him as a director?
That's tough, because I think the Limey is perfect in every way, or at least almost perfect in every way. But because he's so like all over the place. Probably
Yeah,
a witness.
he is.
But I mean, that's the thing I like about him is he's Mr. Not Boring. Whatever he does, it's not boring, even if it's terrible. So he has to be like a witness. Like he's the definition of a witness. Like you have to see everything he does, just because it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I would say he's definitely like a solid witness, just because, like you said, he's all over the place, and like I mean, it feels like with Ocean's 11, he almost brought back the heist movie.
Oh
it hadn't
God,
really
Ocean's
gone
11 is
anywhere.
another movie that's like almost perfect in every way.
Oh yeah, I think I've watched. I think I watched it like twice in one day, one time.
He did Out of Sight as well, right?
Yep, he did Out of
Dude.
Sight.
Out of Sight has my favorite bank robbery scene of all time.
The opening.
Yeah, like
So
George
good.
Clooney just walks in with a nice suit and like talks a guy into like he convinces someone that he's robbing a bank, and that's how he robs the bank.
Yep.
And it's genius.
It's so good, and it's funny because what's his name? Michael. The only reason Michael Keaton is in the movie is because
It's because he was in Jackie Brown, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And I think Tarantino and Soderbergh had like an agreement in order to bridge the two movies together that Michael Keaton was going to be the Nick Fury of the franchise, that universe that never was.
He's the what's the name of that author who wrote like Rum Punch and Out of Sight? And all
I know. I
those?
was trying to think of his name.
Like he's the Nick Fury of the Rum Punch verse.
Who wrote Out of Sight? Elmer Leonard.
Elmer Leonard, that's right. He's the Nick Fury of the Elmer Leonard cinematic universe. It's a shame though that it's him and not Max Cherry, because I like Robert Forster.
I do too, but I also like Michael Keaton, and he's kind of an asshole in both of them, so it's kind of like fitting.
It's funny because like in Jackie Brown, he's like kind of a jerk, but he's like a very competent policeman and stuff.
Yeah.
And then in Out of Sight, he's just like this giant dumbass.
But it's weird because I think the character appears in both books, in Rum Punch and in Out of Sight. He's like a recurring character. So that's why they wanted him in there, because they're like, oh well, we don't want you to recast this character. We want you to have Michael Keaton in there. But different screenwriters, different directors. But
yeah, Steven Soderbergh has made so many almost perfect movies.
Yeah, but he's
And
also
then he's
made
made
like The
some, like-
Informant.
I know, that's the thing. He's made The Informant. He's made Side Effects. He made that one movie where like he plays himself, and all his lines are not lines, but like cues.
Yeah, it's like I don't remember, because I know he also did, I think it's called like, no, it's not Full Frontal, that's a different movie. There was one that he did that was like I don't know. Between like right before Out of Sight, he had a string of like 5 movies that he wrote that did nothing. Just completely collapsed.
Before he did Out of Sight, he did Out of Shite.
He ran out of shite. Well, he stopped writing his own movies. That was the huge thing. It's like when he did Out of Sight, they kind of like took a risk on him.
Oh, Schizopolis was that.
Schizopolis, yep, that's the
Yeah.
one. He also, and then like he came super strong, where he did Traffic and Aaron Brockovich, released in the same year, both nominated for Best Director and both nominated for Best Picture. Like he is nuts. And he did a TV show a couple years ago, like after he had quote retired, after like Behind the Candelabra or whatever. He retired and did a TV show where he shot every episode and edited every episode.
Like, it's quite a retirement.
Well, retired from film, and then he came back with Logan Lucky, and how we feel about Logan. Well, yeah, we both.
The movie's great. I love Logan Lucky.
Okay. I was gonna say, because Logan Lucky, that was another one where like no one knows who the screenwriter is, and so they just kind of assume that he had something to do with the writing of the movie. So he's a weird guy, and that's why Haywire is so weird, because it's like him doing an action movie, but like doing it in his own style. So like there's a sequence that's like a shootout, but there's no sound except for like super drowned out gunfire. And like he likes casting a lot of his friends in like cameo roles, like Ewan McGregor's in there, and Michael Douglas. Have you seen Haywire?
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's really weird because it's got like a ton of like Channing Tatum is in it, which is I think where they first met and first started working together was Haywire. And then he'd go on to like Magic Mike and Side Effects and all these other stuff. By the way, he directed Magic Mike, which is weird too.
I know.
But there's a certain level of like Steven Soderbergh just like picks a project, gets his crew together, which is mainly just, you know, himself, because he shoots and edits his own movies at a certain point. And then he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to do my best to like try and make this movie. And like, it's kind of cool because a lot of the fight scenes use mixed martial arts techniques in it.
Huh.
Yeah. And Michael Fassbender has a fight scene. Michael Fassbender's in it too.
He's also interesting in that he seems to cast a lot of like non-actors in leads.
Right. Or people who like not normally seen as acting and then go on to have some sort of a career in acting. Because like, I don't think Gina Carano would have had... Gina Carano?
I think it's Carano.
Gina Carano, I don't think she would have had any sort of acting career if it weren't for Haywire.
Wait, what? According to Wikipedia, he's the second unit director for the Hunger Games.
What?
Yeah, I don't... like, I'm just as confused as you are.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Why didn't they just get him to do the Hunger Games?
Because it had to be directed by Gary Ross.
Yeah, of course. You know, naturally. The guy who ends up directing Ocean's 8. Like, 6 degrees of separation there. But yeah.
It's like 1 degree of separation that's just doubling back on itself over and over.
Well, like, the other thing is that Soderbergh does... like, after... I forgot which movie. I know that starting with... I guess it was starting with Traffic. He started really doing his own camera work, like he did for his first couple movies, then took a break and someone else was doing camera work and editing and stuff like that. And then he started doing all of his own camera work, and then like midway through the 2000s, he started doing all of his own editing as well. So like, that's why like in Magic Mike, he's the cinematographer and the editor, but he's not the director for some reason, which is like he's such a weird guy. And Haywire is such a weird action movie. But it's pretty good. Like I'm enjoying it. It's got like a really weird chase scene that doesn't go anywhere, but it's like while you're watching it, you're like, oh yeah, this is a very Soderberghy moment. Like there's a lot of those in there. Well,
it's like The Laundromat is not a great movie or even a very good movie, but it's a very interesting movie. And that's the thing you can say. Like all his duds and all his disasters are still really interesting.
Yeah.
And then, like, his successes are, like, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like, Traffic is still incredible. Although he has this weird thing where he, like, over-tints all of his movies. Like, it was purposefully done on Traffic so you can keep track of the stories. But, like, every other movie I've watched, it's like, hey, this scene takes place indoors. It's nothing but yellow. Hey, this scene takes place outdoors. It's all blue. It's like, all right, man, maybe, like, tone down some of, like, the overdone color stuff. but like per usual, his movies are always really stylish, which is cool.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's the main one I've been watching. Okay. What about you? What have you been up to?
Let's see. I watched a couple horror movies recently. I watched Phantasm, which is like an old 70s like cult horror movie.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's pretty good. It's pretty strange as well, and it's also pretty like it's got that kind of 70s low budget horror movie cornball feel going as well. But, like, there's some really cool stuff that they were able to pull off with, like, no money. Like, there's this metal orb that attacks people, and the way it kills people is so fucking disgusting.
Like, what do they actually show what it does? Is it, like, stop-motion animation or something?
I don't know how they did it, but I have a book. I have, like, the autobiography of the guy who wrote, directed, edited, and did the special effects for that movie.
Oh my God.
As well as Bubba Hotep, among others. Don Coscarelli. I'll probably get to a certain point in that book about how he created the orb, but the orb is like a thing. It's like the size of like a softball.
Okay.
And it's all like shining chrome. And it has like these 2 knives that come out of it, and it just flies through the air at like insane speeds, and it like hits this guy in the face. The 2 knives go into his eyes, and then like out of the center there's a drill that drills into his head, and then out of the back, and then out of the back a hole opens up, and all this blood just sprays out like out of a fire hose.
Out of the orb?
out of the orb. Yeah, like it's draining all the blood from his face and shooting it out the back.
Oh my god, dude.
It's horrifying.
That's actually pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing. Like that it's one of the most impressive like special effects I've seen in a movie of that era, or just in general. So yeah, like it's a solid, it's like a solid witness, I'd say. Yeah. I watched Jacob's Ladder as well, which has some interesting like stylistic quirks to it, but the end, it's got one of those like it was all a dream type of endings. Oh. That's so insanely frustrating. I don't like the movie because of it.
Hey man, your ending is important. I know more than one person who was disappointed by Us because of the ending, including myself. So then, like, you got to stick the landing.
I know. And then I watched the available episodes of Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal.
Yeah.
Dude, that show is amazing. It's so good. I'm like bummed though, because like at the end of episode 5, there's like a cliffhanger, and like I need it resolved now. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know how it's gonna get resolved, but that show is so brutal, you just never know.
You mean director of Hotel Transylvania 1, 2, and 3's Genndy Tartakovsky?
Yes, that Genndy Tartakovsky.
I should watch Primal. I never got into Samurai Jack as much as I wanted to. And like if Primal's only like 4 or 5 episodes in, it's like, I could probably it'll knock them out quickly.
It'll take you 2 hours to watch all 5.
Yeah. Are they all half hour, like 20 minutes?
They're all 20 minutes.
Okay.
And they're all very good. There's no dialogue in the whole show. Nice. So it's all like visual and suggestive storytelling, which is pretty cool. And it's all like super stylized and over the top, which is great.
Yeah, of course. It's weird because like I saw some of the clips to the new Samurai Jack where they're using like, digitally painted backgrounds and lighting effects and stuff. And you contrast that with like the first season's 4:3 aspect ratio, and no budget. And I was like, oh man, I know I should go back and rewatch the original, but it's gonna be rough. In a way that some other anime isn't rough. There's just something about like, I don't know, man.
Well, it's interesting because you go back and watch like the first episode of Samurai Jack, and like the lines are a lot less clean than you remember.
Yeah.
Because like they're just, it's the technology of that time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And how all those drawings got recorded, but I'm sure we will get hopefully like some sort of HD, like the 4K remastered like
Samurai
all 5
Jack
seasons of Samurai Jack. Yeah,
that'd be cool. But again,
just
it was
on
like
Blu-ray.
It's like it was HD DVD.
HD DVD. No, I mean like a 4K Blu-ray or whatever. The super deluxe Blu-ray.
Yeah, or just like released on Amazon Prime in 4K mode. That you can't access that I can't access on my PlayStation because it doesn't do 4K. Damn it. Genndy Tartakovsky. He's got like a wild and interesting career because I didn't watch Symbiotic Command the
Symbiotic Titan.
Yes, I never watched that, and I heard that was just kind of okay.
It is just kind of okay. I watched the first like maybe 10 episodes or so, and it's all right. But like every other show he's done has been amazing. Like Dexter's Lab was amazing.
Dexter's Lab, awesome. Yeah.
Samurai Jack is amazing. Star Wars: The Clone Wars is amazing.
Mm-hmm. But it's also like it's funny because I make fun of the fact that he did like the Hotel Transylvania movies, which is like in some ways seem like an easy cash out. But if he doesn't do those, you don't get You don't get the latter half. You don't get a remake of Samurai Jack. You don't.
Yeah.
What is it? Primal.
Well, Primal is because of the success of the Samurai Jack finale.
I mean, that helps, but like also he has money to like keep doing his projects. Yeah. Like he had the money to do Samurai Jack.
Apparently he genuinely enjoys like Hotel Transylvania.
I haven't watched any of them, but every Hotel Transylvania movie, it gets more and more like Genndy Tartakovsky looking. Like the way that they do the key poses and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
I can see that.
Like I find some of the it's just weird that it's CG. Mm-hmm. If it were all flat, it would all look right. But there's something about like they're in 3D that's kind of just a little bit off. But every movie looks more and more like his style.
Yeah,
it's really crazy. But again, I shouldn't judge them because I haven't seen them. They just seem kind of like easy cash-ins.
Yeah, well, because people have asked him about that. It's like, are you just doing those for the money? Like, because, they know Samurai Jack was canceled. A lot of his shows get canceled.
Yeah.
So he's like, people are asking, like, are you just doing those for the money? Are you struggling financially? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I really like Hotel Transylvania. They're a lot of fun.
Well, so I guess the other way to look at it is like, like Adam Sandler gets flack, but like he gets to hang out with Adam Sandler for a couple of days while they record. He gets to hang out with Steve Buscemi. He gets to hang out with Andy Samberg. And so like they're probably a lot of fun to hang out with. I mean, there's a reason Adam Sandler gets his like cadre of friends together every time he wants to shoot a movie. Like they might not be for
there's
me.
people who are like that.
Yeah.
And it's like how all those Kevin James movies are terrible.
Right.
But like all of Kevin James's friends who are never in movies will just be in his movies because like he's a fun guy to hang out with.
Yeah. And they get paid.
Well, a lot of them don't need the money though.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. I think there was something where it's like almost all the movies that Joe Rogan appears in are like shitty Kevin James comedies. And the only reason he does that is just because he really likes Kevin James. They're like good buddies.
It's so weird. I can see, like Bill Romanowski keeps appearing in Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, yeah, I know they're bad, but he invited me to do it, and there's a reason.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, like. So it's weird because I know like we like to shit on them and like it's but it's kind of funny that he's taking the studio for all it's worth in its own way.
Well, it's kind of like when you're in school and you're just making silly movies with your friends. As much as Adam Sandler's movies are crap, like it's kind of cool that he's able to do that on like a huge budget scale with like studio money. Yeah. He's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get my friends together. We're gonna make a silly movie.
Yeah, it's incredible. The economy of Adam Sandler movies.
I know. Speaking of getting your friends together and making a silly movie, the last movie I saw prior to this podcast is Federico Fellini's 8.5.
Ooh, and
it's really good.
Wait, don't you mean the movie 9?
What? Are you rounding up?
No. There was the musical starring Daniel Day-Lewis, directed by Rob Marshall, back when Rob Marshall was a prestige director and not just like doing movies for Disney to make sure that he could pay for his bungalow in New York.
A New York bungalow? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, something like that.
I thought that was an LA thing.
Well, his third bungalow in LA, so he can commute back and forth between New York and LA.
8.5 is really good. Like it's ultra stylish. There's a lot of interesting things cinematically, and it's also like, I mean, it's like the most meta movie ever.
Yes.
And it mines that meta-ness for humor in a lot of ways. Like there's a lot of comedy in the movie that's like sort of self-deprecating, where it's like there will be some sort of extravagant artistic cinematic sequence, and then there's like this critic who's like reading the guy's script for the movie that he's trying to make, which is also the movie that we're watching, and he's like, this is a bunch of bullshit, you're just like being pretentious and showing off because you think like, people will think it's cool. He's like, like this character doesn't make any sense. Like it's like he keeps like attacking the director for being like pretentious and self-obsessed, which I thought was really funny. And he always does it right after there's like a really, surreal, artsy moment.
So the thing about like because I guess it still technically fell under neorealist movies in Italian film.
No, it's not.
I know it's
surrealist
not stylist.
It's considered a surrealist movie, not a neo-realist movie.
Okay. But he still uses some of those techniques. Like a lot of the dialogue is like ADR'd and like ADR'd like not necessarily perfectly.
Oh, it's ADR'd like badly.
Yeah, like that for whatever reason.
It's weird too, because like a lot of it's ADR'd and by people who are clearly not Italian speaking Italian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like there's sequences that are ADR'd where like someone will be talking and their voice, like everything they're saying is in Italian. I think the movie
Right.
switches off between Italian, French, and English, but it's mostly Italian. They'll be speaking in Italian, but it's like Italian spoken with a British accent. So
I don't have enough money in Italy to finish it. Let me go to Britain. They love my movies.
Yeah, because like someone will be like, "Buongiorno Guido," but instead of saying it, it's like "Buongiorno Guido." It's just like what the fuck?
Maybe it's like how...
you couldn't
Go
get
ahead.
an Italian person to dub this, considering it's being dubbed anyway.
I mean, I wonder if it's like how in American movies, like when two Russians are talking to each other, they just
It's
like
all in English.
they talk in English but with Russian accents.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, like in Wonder Woman, like all of a sudden, what's his name? Chris Pine's talking with a German accent, but he's still speaking in English, and it's like, oh yeah,
I'm speaking German.
I guess he's speaking German now. Like maybe it's a similar thing there of like, or it's like a character who's supposed to be British in the world speaking Italian, so they give him a British accent. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, the best version of that is in Die Hard, when Hans Gruber says something in German to another German guy, and then the German guy doesn't understand it, so he says it in English, and the guy understands it.
Audience shorthand.
I know. He's like schnell, schnell, and the guy's like, huh? And he's just like, go, hurry. And it's like, what? No, but he's German. He would understand it better if it was. You fuck.
This movie makes no sense anymore. I just assume that Federico Fellini looks like the guy he get.
That's the real reason why John McTiernan went to jail. But go ahead. That was his cry.
Oh my god. Oh, John McTiernan humor. I thought it was because he made The 13th Warrior. Yeah, I always just think that the guy who plays as the main character in 8.5, like
Marcello Mastroianni.
yes, that actor. I just assume that that's what Federico Fellini looks like, which I know is like not true at all.
Not even remotely true.
Because isn't
that guy's
Fellini like super huge?
Oh yeah, Fellini looks like a toad. like imagine a like liver spotted Alfred Hitchcock with like Henry Kissinger hair, and that's Federico Fellini. He just kind of looks like an Italian Henry Kissinger, if I'm going to be honest.
But
Marcello Mastroianni is very like stylish, and
Yeah.
you know he's like a good-looking dude. He doesn't look anything like Fellini.
But 8.5, worth the watch.
Oh, absolutely! It's a really good movie.
Nice.
It's especially if you're just like a movie geek.
Right.
There's a lot of cool sequences, a lot of cool ideas, a lot of great special effects, and a lot of great humor. I mean, it obviously like it is a surrealist movie, so it can be kind of alienating to certain people who aren't into that type of thing. But you know, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good.
Well, it's another like I haven't seen a lot of it. I think I saw the first half hour of it, and I was into it, but I had to move on to something else at the time. But like, just there are moments in there where it's just like there's something about the way that certain foreign directors use the camera, where it feels like they're just like, all right, this is what we're gonna go do in the scene. Hand me the camera and let's shoot it quickly. Like there's you know that always
Which I like.
It makes me want to go out there and make something. Like
I
there's
know,
like an
it
energy
does,
to
right?
it. So and it's kind of the same with Godard, even though like even though I don't know if I'd ever really be able to watch some of his more abstract later stuff.
Canon Films presents Jean-Luc Godard's King Lear.
Which is always going to be the high point.
I know.
Nice. Did you see anything else?
Just those.
Well, not that wasn't a lot, because that's,
Yeah.
you know, you kind of ran the gamut there.
Exactly. Well, and also a lot of my time has been spent trying to finish, Death Stranding, so we can talk about it here and now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what ended up sucking up a lot of my time, bits and pieces here and there. So let's do it, dude. Let's talk about Death Stranding. I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this since you were like, hey man, we should probably talk about it on the podcast. Yeah. And I was still on like chapter 6 or something. Like, okay, well, fuck. This is gonna be fun. Death Stranding starring Norman Reedus, Léa Seydoux. 2 versions of Lindsay Wagner, Troy Baker, and featuring Guillermo del Toro as Dead Man and Nicholas Winding Refn as Hartman.
Yep, and also Margaret Qualley's poorly animated teeth.
I felt so bad because I was like, out of all of the things to like accurately represent in the game, we're going to make sure that your teeth are 100% real to who you are right now.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
When there's like that scene where it's her flashback and she's trapped under the rubble.
Yeah.
Like, that was so unsettling, the way her face gets animated, because her teeth are like too, like her face is a video game face, but her teeth are in the uncanny valley
of like being ultra realistic.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this.
I like, you know, commitment to like 100% accuracy and everything, but like, you know, good for Margaret Qualley for like doing this, because like,
I know
it's such a weird choice. Like, good for all the actors doing it, even though I know Norman Reedus and Norman Reedus's digital ass was like the first thing that was greenlit about this project. My God.
Dude, and also, you know, we've complained so much in the past about Mads Mikkelsen being underutilized in movies.
Yeah.
This has perfectly utilized him, I think.
I know. I could have... Yeah, I agree. So where should we start with the game? Did you like the game?
Yes, I like the game quite a bit.
All right, where does it stack for you? I liked the game a lot. I think out of the last maybe like 5 or 10 years, this has been one of the best games I've played.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I go quite that far. It's definitely the best game I've played of 2019.
I would agree with that.
I mean, I didn't play that many games in 2019. I love
Neither did
Borderlands. I love Borderlands, so I played the fuck out of Borderlands 3, but I like Death Stranding a little bit more. And obviously for very different reasons.
Right.
Where do you think this fits in with Kojima's oeuvre? Especially considering that, I mean, games do not typically age very well. So you kind of have to compare, like, you playing this right now compared to how you played other games and how you felt about them at that time in the past.
Well, so I played Metal Gear Solid. Technically, I didn't play the first one on PlayStation. I played the Twin Snakes. So I've played Twin Snakes 2, 3, and 4 all the way to completion. I stayed away from 5 because a lot of people were telling me it was an incomplete game. And I could even venture that Death Stranding may feel a little incomplete in some areas. I don't know how much I love his open world stuff, just because I'm used to, you know, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, and 4, which had kind of open worldy elements, but were pretty strict.
No, they weren't. They were not even open world. They were like.
Well, they did, but they did have areas like you could go back in areas and like do.
Yeah,
like,
they were just they were levels. They were like classical levels, but just big.
Well, they were, but again, like you could go back, like in Metal Gear Solid 1, there's no part in the game until the very end where you couldn't go all the way back to the first area. You know what I mean? Like, so
but
it's
you're
not
like inside a building
world,
the whole time.
But yeah. But it's the same with like 2 and 3. Like 3 is getting to the point where it's like, oh, now you're outdoors. But each area, it's not like one cohesive map. It's all a bunch of smaller maps connected.
Yeah, exactly.
4 kind of gets there because like, especially Chapter 2 takes forever. Which is another weird thing about, like, Kojima has very strange pacing issues in all of his games. Mm-hmm. And he has an obsession with, like, dividing up his games into, like, first half is kind of like a prologue short area, and then the second half is, like, the majority of the game, and then, like, a little tiny sprinkling for a third act.
I was going to say, I feel like a lot of, especially games from Japan and Europe, to a lesser extent, have that, where it's like there's a prologue world almost that takes a while to get through, and then there's the game proper. Like The Witcher 3, for example, is kind of like that, where there's a pretty lengthy section that is more basically just the prologue, and it takes place in a small area, and then once you're done with that, you get to the actual game.
So I'll also say that I'm not as big a fan of like American video games as I am of Japanese games. just because I think there's like a really weird design philosophy difference between the two.
Yeah.
And so I tend to like the feel of Japanese games better. Now, with that said, I haven't played The Witcher 3. I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2, both games that I think I'd like a lot.
Well, The Witcher 3 is a Polish game.
Right. Yeah, I would still kind of count it as Western, but that's why I was saying like American-made games. Like I do generally like Rockstar games, but even those, like there's still like
and Rockstar is from Scotland.
Are they really?
Yeah, well, so the original Rockstar unit that made Grand Theft Auto and continues to make all the Grand Theft Auto games is Scottish.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like the original Grand Theft Auto was a Scottish satire of American culture.
Oh, that's so perfect.
But the Red Dead Redemption games are made in the US. They're made out of San Diego.
Okay, so they're Rockstar San Diego. So, like, I'm also a big fan of Kojima games. Like, I played a bit of Boktai. I want to go back and play Snatchers. I like Police Knots. I played both of the Zone of the Enders games. So, like, I'm a fan. So I'm biased. So everything I say, go ahead and take with a grain of salt or whatever.
Yeah.
About Death Stranding. But I was really looking forward to it. I had a really good time with it. I don't know if I would go back to it just because that beginning section, not like the prologue and getting into it, but like probably from like before you get the first bike onwards, before you can like mass produce bikes, it's going to be hard for me to like go back and play up to that point again.
Oh yeah. Like my biggest beef with Death Stranding is that the prologue is so uninteresting. And it's really, when you get to chapter 3 and it starts to introduce more of the social elements and stuff,
right?
That's when the game really becomes a lot of fun, because I think like the main allure of the game and what makes it different from a lot of other games is kind of the social aspect of it, where you are on your own, but you know, there's this kind of like, you put good things out into the world of the game and good things come back to you, right? You know? And it's kind of like you have that feeling of being part of a community where you're, you know, the world is totally empty with the exception of BTs and human enemies, the mules, who are addicted to the thrill of delivering packages. Which is just
Jeff Bezos
bonkers,
is going to use that like over every Amazon corporate office, like, be the mule you need to be.
I know.
Be addicted to the delivery.
But so like the world is empty basically, and it's kind of cool, that feeling of like you and all these people you don't know are like working together to repopulate it, like building roads and building equipment to like help each other out, because like the world is pretty big on foot. But spoilers, or minor spoilers, one of the final missions of the game is you have to start at the very end of the map and go all the way back to the beginning. Like cover all of the area you've spent the entire game covering in one go. And going back is really, really fast because you have all the things that you've built and that other people have built to help ease the way. And I think that's like, I thought that was really cool, like in a game that is about kind of connection and people helping each other out. Like going one direction for most of the game is like an arduous task, but when you have to go back, it's really easy because all your work and the work of other people is paid off.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people were kind of like for example, in the video I sent you, he was kind of bitching and moaning about how like it's like you want to have this amazing moment of like seeing all of the places that you've gone to and all of the great things that you've done and like seeing how far you've come, but it goes by in such a blink of an eye that like you don't really think about it. Like you can't really enjoy the fact that you've traversed all this land. And I was like, I think you're probably the first person that I've talked to who's like, oh, I like the fact that like you can really see how much you've developed and how you can use all of the tools that you've already put in place in order to get back after that, like after the chiral network's all established. You can get back to it. So it's funny because like I enjoyed it particularly also because like I realized that I hadn't laid out some of my zip lines as well as I should have for some of the areas, especially near the latter half of the game. I definitely could have redone my zip lines, but I also like that there's like a giant highway that you're like slowly building. It's kind of an optional thing, but it makes the latter half of the game so much easier if you just pump all of your resources into it.
Oh yeah, I pumped so many resources into building the highway like early on, and as a result, like you have your stats of like how much cargo you can carry, how fast you run out of breath,
Yep.
and all that. Dude, I got my bridge link to like 70 before the end of chapter 4. Just because I spent so much time building roads. So like everyone was on the roads I was building and like they were contributing to it too.
Yep.
And then that just
it's
shot
really
through the
cool.
roof. It's amazing. I love that feature.
Like that's cool. I remember for my zipline network when I started making all my own zip lines, I used a lot of ones that already appeared. And again, it's weird because the items that appear in your game, you have some control over it because you can like certain people.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you don't choose anything, the game will randomly distribute a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool, but also it can be kind of problematic. But you can also move your things along that way. Also, I never felt like I was lacking any vehicles. Once they open up, like everyone else has a bunch of vehicles that the game will randomly drop in the world anyway.
Yeah.
Which I found really helpful and really cool too.
Oh, absolutely. Like when you're in the middle of some inhospitable hellhole, like in the snow or on a mountain.
Oh, God.
Like near a BT area, and like you can't get away because you're so slow moving in the snow. And then there's just like a bike randomly there, and I'm like, oh, thank you,
thank
guy
God.
who left this.
My favorite were the timefall shelters. I was like, oh, thank God.
Oh, those were so
Every time-
nice. Those
every time
and
I'd see one.
the bunkers, because the bunkers take so much resources to build. Like
Oh,
the people who just build those out of the kindness of their hearts are great.
You're just like, I'll use a private room now. It's also kind of cool because like there are a lot of ways to play the game, and I think there's enough variety in how you can go about it that it's not too problematic. But I find it really weird that a lot of people, like, I don't know if you did this, but apparently a lot of people complained because they would load up Sam so much, and then they'd be like, oh no, I gotta balance all my cargo. Oh, this is such a drag. Like, I did that maybe for the first like 2 hours of the game, and then I was like, or maybe I just make a lot of stops and use tools and vehicles in order to make my job easier. Like,
Yeah.
were you
by the end
overloading?
not really. I mean, by the end of the game, I could drive on literally any surface. So, like, I had figured out the tricks to taking your vehicle anywhere. So I could just overload Sam, hop on the bike, and go.
Oh my God. I never got too comfortable with the vehicles, but there was shit. Like, I never really used trucks, for example.
I never used trucks either. Well, because don't you have to steal those from mules?
Oh no, you can there's a person you can unlock trucks to use.
Oh, I guess I
in the
didn't
game.
like 5-star that person or whatever.
Yeah, you have to get to like 3 or 4 stars with one of the other guys in order to get him.
Oh well.
In order to lose. Well, and it was like, it's funny because the other thing about the game is like, I was gonna go back to something else, but anyway, the other interesting thing about like how it was is like you could do standard orders, which I found kind of annoying, but you can also randomly just pick up packages for the people and deliver them, and like the standard orders will give you the best likes.
Yeah.
But if you chose to like pick up random packages, you could also make like a cash fall just of likes that way too. So I thought the dynamics of the game system itself were really interesting until near the end of the game. Like by the time Hartman came along, I was like, I don't want to build up the network anymore. I don't want to get started, because the other way you can get more chiral network is by continually getting likes. The more likes you have, the larger a network you can build, so you can build more stuff like that.
You can build more zip lines, which is what we all need.
That's pretty much, I mean, that was the only thing I used PCCs for the most part.
Yeah, I use them for generators to recharge my bike as well.
Oh, just like a network of like bike generate. See, that would have been smart too. Like I never really used bikes, so it wasn't as big of an issue for me. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. I thought it was also, the other thing I like a lot is if you or someone else trods along the same path a lot, it creates the path on the ground permanently, so it's easier for you to continue to walk.
I know. I thought that was really neat. Yeah.
I thought that was amazing. Like that just like that blew my mind when I realized that in games these days you can have it dynamically create like passages like that. which I feel like is like I don't know if you can do that in any other game, but it feels like one of those like, oh, that's a Kojima detail that other people may copy in the future because it's just so brilliant.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the social aspects of the game feel like they were. It feels like a lot of the ideas, a lot of the social stuff from Dark Souls used well, as opposed to Dark Souls. It's just there to kind of fuck with you.
That's what I was actually going to ask, because I know in Dark Souls, like, people can like leave messages and stuff, and I knew that it was at least when Demon Souls came out, people were praising it for its like multiplayer aspects. I was thinking about that in here, where like Kojima must have played Dark Souls and had been like, this is interesting, but what if the player's objects were in the world instead?
Yeah, well, it's like the stuff in Dark Souls and Demon Souls is so limited that it really doesn't. Like, I play the game with online stuff turned off.
Oh, because it's just that.
Yeah, because a lot of the time you'll go somewhere and there's a bunch of messages on the floor saying like "watch out," and that's it. And it's like. It's fucking Dark Souls. You have to watch out all the time. Like, everything is always trying to kill you. There's always something behind some corner that's going to leap out and stab you. So, that's not very helpful.
Oh, gee, thanks for the watch out. Yeah.
Or, like, occasionally you'll see someone else's ghost, like, run someplace or swing their sword at an enemy you can't see, which implies that an enemy is there. So, like, watch out. But, like, the flip side of that is if you have that stuff turned on, other people can invade your world and kill you. So... I'm not interested in any of that bullshit. So I feel like this is like, okay, well, what if we had those online elements that were just kind of a curiosity in Dark Souls and Demon Souls, and made them like a core part of the game, and made them the main feature of the game, and made them actually good.
Yeah.
And I think he succeeded, because it's like the core gameplay is pretty basic. I mean, you load up with stuff, you walk around, you have your bola gun, and then later actual guns to fight off enemies.
The bola gun is so awesome.
The bola gun is great. I mean, the interesting thing is like your only legit weapon for beating BTs is the hematic grenade. Because I tried like the hematic bullets, and those are useless. Like, you have to unload 2 magazines from an assault rifle into a BT to kill it. So you're better off either throwing grenades or sneaking up behind them and slicing their umbilical cord.
Yeah, which I thought was cool, was a cool feature.
Well, it's like a nice little throwback to Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
You have to sneak up behind him and do CQC.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, you could run into the the mules and do CQC that way too, with fucking clumsy ass Sam swinging his hands around wildly, hoping to hit something.
Or you could bind them with the strand.
Oh my god!
I love the terminology.
Goofy, but so amazing. That was the thing that I don't know if you hated that or loved it, but like just to go off really quickly, and I want to loop around back to it. The game is so heavy-handed in its theme that it pervades every single piece of the game.
Everything in the game is a metaphor, which I love, because it is so just like, I would love it if it was done well and done subtly, but I also love it because it's just so over the top, so heavy-handed, and so ridiculous. Because everything is like, everyone is named like what they are.
Yep.
So like, it's like, I'm Heartman, and my heart is in the shape of a heart, and I live by a lake that's the shape of a heart, and I have heart attacks.
And his likes are hearts.
And his likes are hearts.
Which is like a Kojima thing. I love it.
I love how he gives you like how he like thumbs up the camera.
Yep.
And then it's like, you got 20 likes.
And it has an effect in the game.
I know. Like, and then like Deadman. I also like how Heartman, played by Nicholas Winding Refn, I like how his room is like the neon demon Too Old to Die Young room. And there is a memory chip you can find out in the world where, if you turn it in, unlocks My Life, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, to be watched as like a watchable extra.
Wait, are you serious?
I'm dead serious. You can watch My Life, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, in the game.
In the game? That's amazing.
It's great.
Oh my god.
Like how Guillermo del Toro is Deadman, and he's literally a zombie, or like
he's made up of all like dead parts, like old parts of other people. There's nothing of his own in there.
You know, Margaret Qualley is Mama, and she's a mom, or fucking like how everything is like is either beach, sea, water, ocean, strand, sand.
The big
rope,
BTs are whales that get beached on the beach.
Rope,
like,
knot, bridge.
Yep. The fact that
connecting things.
Well, and then of course, like, it all comes to like a head when you're fighting Higgs, whose whole job is to, like, you know, destroy things, and he uses a knife, and your whole job is to connect things, and you use a rope.
I know.
I was like, oh my god, I
thinking
love
of
it.
Parasite when he's like, this is so metaphorical.
That's so true, though. Oh my god.
It's like, well, it's funny because in the initial lead up to the game, Hideo Kojima kept talking about this short story where he's like there's in Japan, you know, there's this story, like, the first two things mankind invented were sticks and ropes. Sticks were used to keep things away and to beat back danger, and ropes were used to secure things that were important to us. All the tools we see in video games up to this point are sticks. I'm going to make a game where your tool is a rope.
So
and like,
awesome.
I mean, it's kind of like that sounded amazing, and that's what got me interested in the game. And I mean, it's kind of true. Obviously, you do have like guns and knives and shoot people.
Well, I wonder if he put those in because he's like, okay. So here's where I'm kind of like run into some questions.
But I just wanted to say, like,
go ahead.
They do quote that short. They do reference that short story twice in the game, because Higgs, when you fight Higgs at the end, and he's got his knife, and you've got your rope. You have to bind him with the strand, aka tie him up with a rope. You have to hog tie him. Like, he says, you know, it's stick versus rope. And then later on, at the very end of the game, when there's the gun that they use to like when you're trapped in the other world, and all your friends are able to find you using the gun that you have and that they have in the real world. Deadman says, like, it's the stick that's also a rope.
Oh man, I missed that, but yeah, that's yeah.
And then fucking Sam, he keeps changing his name to be different metaphors. He's like, my original name was Sam Strand, and then because he became disconnected from people, he was Sam Porter. He's like, I'm not connected to anybody, I just carry things. Now I'm Sam Porter. And then later on, it's like, Mads Mikkelsen's like, you're the bridge to the future. He's now Sam Bridges.
Your real name is Sam. You're like your mom's last name, Lisa Bridges. You're Sam Bridges. So great. I realize that it's all super heavy-handed.
Yeah.
But I loved every second of it because, like, so I'm used to playing.
And if you play other Kojima games, you're used to ultra heavy-handed storytelling.
You're the
like Metal Gear Solid 5. Like, oh yeah, like, you remember the fucking ending of Metal Gear Solid 2, where it's just like documentary footage of New York City, and Solid Snake is just monologuing. He's like, you are an individual, resist social control. I will leave behind my legacy that is more than just my genes, but the impact we have on the world.
Well, I feel
the
like
government is controlling the flow of information. Like, it's like this 20-minute long thing about how it's like, you are an individual. The actions you do are like the legacy you leave behind. Resist social control.
Lolly Lule Low, man. Lolly Lule Low.
Or like in Metal Gear Solid 5, when you sit in the back of a truck for 20 minutes while Skullface explains like linguistics to you. And he's like, I'm going to destroy language because language bad. Revenge.
Well, oh my god, I love Kojima games so much. Well, that's the thing. Like, I like Suda51's games. Like, I don't know if you've like
he's the guy who did No More Heroes, right?
He did No More Heroes, yeah. But his stuff is like, it's weird and on the nose. Yeah. And it just kind of stays that way. Whereas like with Kojima, he actually like is like, yeah, it's weird, it's on the nose. Like for Vamp, for example, it's like, oh, I want to put a vampire in my game. Oh, but he's not just any vampire. Like, he's, you know, like, he's the like hard sci-fi version of a vampire. Like,
and his name is Vamp.
And his name is Vamp, just in case it's not, you know,
I'm
on
Vamp,
the nose
the
enough.
vampire. It's like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Or like Fortune in Metal Gear Solid 2. A lot of my references are gonna probably come out of Metal Gear Solid 2. But like Fortune in Metal Gear Solid 2.
was probably I was gonna say Metal Gear Solid 2 is probably the most important game I ever played in terms of like forming my taste on video games.
I think that's the way for a lot of people. Because Metal
like,
Gear Solid 2 is fucking crazy.
It's nuts. That game, like, Sons of Liberty was a real game changer, I think. And then, like, you know, Snake Eater was amazing, but it's just sort of like the follow-up to that, you know?
I think Snake Eater for Kojima is almost a more important game because like it's more of like a Kojima game, whereas Metal Gear Solid 2, it has all the Kojima stuff, but it also has to try and like tie into. I don't know.
Well, I also heard that I think Snake Eater was supposed to be the last one.
That was the last one he was going to direct. He was going to stop at Snake Eater.
Well,
and then...
no, I think that was supposed to be the last Metal Gear game, and then he came out of retirement like 4 times to do Guns of the Patriots, Portable Ops, Peace Walker, and then Phantom Pain.
And then Phantom Pains, yeah.
Also, Die Hardman always just makes me think of Hot Coldman from Portable Ops.
I never played Portable Ops.
I never played it either. I just know that there's a guy named Hot Cold Man in that game.
Or like, I loved. That's the other thing is I love all of Kojima's villains.
I know. One thing I really liked about Death Stranding compared to like Metal Gear Solid 5 is that, you know, Kojima historically has always had amazing boss battles in his games, you know, especially Metal Gear Solid 3, but like like 2 and 4 and even 1 have great boss fights.
Oh, one has
Metal Gear Solid...
one has one of the most iconic boss fights that everyone always remembers in Psycho Mantis.
I know. Well, it's not much of a boss fight though. It's just like a cool moment where if you're a kid and you don't understand how your controller works, it's like, he's moving my controller, he's like reading my memory card, he knows I played... He knows I played Okami.
I can't hit him. Why can he memorize my movements? But yeah, I would say three has some of the best. But yeah, 5
I mean, the boss fight with
any,
the end
right?
is amazing in 3.
Well, it depends. How did you beat him?
I just shot him.
You didn't.
I shot him.
I snuck up to him and I stabbed the motherfucker. You didn't move your clock forward like a month or a year so that he died of old age.
No, I know that's a thing you could do, which is great. But
that's why I love Kojima's games.
I know.
It's shit like that.
The thing is, Metal Gear Solid 5 came along, and I was really excited for the boss fights, and there weren't any.
That's what I heard. That's one of the reasons I stayed away.
There's 2 boss battles in the whole game. One you fight. It's basically just a repeat of the end boss fight, but less interesting.
Ugh.
And then like just a standard like battle a giant robot boss fight at the very end of the game.
I mean.
And also the game's not finished.
Yeah, that's the other thing that made me. Well, I mean, I would even say that the last truly finished Metal Gear Solid game was 3, because 4 feels, since we're getting into his like whole gameography, 4 feels like it was, because it's so balanced, and the first 2 chapters feel complete. Especially that second chapter is so long.
Yeah.
But then, like, the 3rd chapter is basically just, like, an elongated cutscene with a little bit of shooting. The 4th chapter, you go all the way through Shadow Moses for some reason. And then the 5th chapter is basically just, like, running to the end of a room. Yeah. So, like, it feels like maybe there was more content that he wanted in there, but he was rushed to get it finished in time.
I don't think that was the case with 4. I think with 4, it was... Oh, the point I was making about boss battles is I like that Death Stranding has a lot of boss battles.
Yes, it has a lot of boss battles, and it has a lot of optional boss battles, too.
Yes. But yeah, the thing with 4, though, I think it was, you know, because he was sort of coming out of his Metal Gear Solid retirement to do it, because fans were hounding him for it, I think that he wanted to make, like, he kind of wanted to make the Star Wars... you know, Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker of Metal Gear Solid games, where it's like, he's still doing all the crazy shit that he wants to do, but a lot of it is, you know, just stuff for the fans, like going back through Shadow Moses. It's like, hey, remember Metal Gear Solid 1? Let's go through Shadow Moses again, but in HD this time.
You remember finding that SOCOM? It's still there, even though it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So I think it's just kind of like a big nostalgia-filled... Like, it's meant to be this big blowout, because you realize, like, pretty early on in the game that nothing makes any sense anymore because the storyline has become so convoluted you can't understand what's happening, and they just use nanomachines to fill all the plot holes.
That's the biggest crime of the game. How does Vamp work? Nanomachines. It's fine. Sneak up behind him and
the
inject
genome
him.
soldiers, nanomachines.
Nanomachines.
Everything is
it's fine.
nanomachines. What are the Patriots? They're all nanomachines or something. What's what's the deal with Revolver, Liquid, Ocelot, Snake Man?
Well, that
nanomachines.
He conditioned his brain. He can't live in a world without a big boss surrogate. So instead of it being cool where Liquid's mind or whatever in the super Japanese like weird shit Akira, where like all of his conscious transferred to his hand that was attached to Revolver Ocelot, dominating Revolver Ocelot's brain. It's like, oh no, just kidding. He went to a psychiatrist really hardcore.
Yeah.
And like got himself hypnotized into it. Like,
Which
that's
I
not
kind of
cool.
like the Akira thing where it's like Liquid's mind is in his hand and it's possessed Revolver Ocelot.
Well, that's so his games feel so hard. Like he does so much research into like making everything sound plausible that when he does something batshit insane like that, I just go with it and I'm like, that's fucking awesome. It sounds good enough. It's a good enough thing. So I like all of that stuff, and a lot of that stuff gets ruined by like nanomachines, like
nanomachines.
Ugh.
So I feel like 4 is a finished game. It's just 5. He literally got fired before he could complete it.
Yeah.
So
well,
the storyline just kind of drops off after a certain point.
I don't blame them for firing him on it, but at the same time, like, because he was pumping a lot of resources into a game that probably never would have come out. Like, I think he could have just invented more reasons to have it not come out. Because like, there's,
which is weird because like the gameplay in Metal Gear Solid 5 is like perfect. It
I know,
has
that's
probably
my
the
hair.
most perfect gameplay I've ever experienced. Because like all the controls are airtight. Everything, all the systems and everything work excellently. It's just the overarching plot is kind of a mess because it's the Metal Gear Solid 5. So you have like 20 years of confusion that you're trying to like layer another game on top of. And it doesn't even try to kind of tie itself in too much to the other games. It just has its own quasi-nonsensical storyline that doesn't resolve at the end because you got fired before you could finish. But it has like some of the most amazing gameplay ever, and I think everyone should play it just on that merit alone. Like even if the story's a fucking disaster, and a lot of the statements that he's trying to make get a little confused because he wasn't able to go
Finish
through
it,
with them all the way. It's still the game is so much fun and it's so good, and like it's got like good like emotional moments too, and it even like references it's pretty self-aware that at this point like Revolver Ocelot's motivations still, they're like every game they just get more and more confusing, and then this like just embraces that. Like no one knows what side he's on. And this game is very aware that no one knows what side he's on.
So 5 is worth like if I can find the collection of Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pains, if I can find the combo pack, it's worth buying.
Definitely.
Okay, all right. I go back and forth because I know it's an incomplete game, but multiple people have said it controls like beautifully. So
it's so beautiful. Like when you're moving Snake around, like just the gentlest nudge of your controller moves him in like the perfectly proportionate way versus like pushing it all the way forward moves him in like the perfectly proportionate way to that. Like the degree of fine control you have over the character and all his movements is unprecedented. And the way it's just the game, perfect gameplay. That's about all I can say.
So I'll also say this. I have always been a huge fan of the way Kojima's games control. Like I thought that I love the way that Death Stranding controls for the most part, about 90% of the time. Every now and then you get into a situation where you're like, I should be able to climb up this. Sam isn't moving, and then all of a sudden he'll just fall over, and like all of your freight will take like 100 points of damage, and BB will be like blurting out like, ah! And you're like, what the fuck just happened? Can I go back? Let me just go back a little bit. But like for the most part, I feel like his game. So two things that I love about his games: the control. And the sound design, every sound is like fucking perfect. I don't know how he does it, and I'm so jealous.
The controls in Japanese games generally, but I think in his games in particular, tend to be very slick and very polished and tight, and there's very little to complain about. I think the only Japanese game I can think of that controls kind of poorly is Dark Souls, but from what I've heard, that's intentional. Like it's like there's a weird delay between anything you do and when it actually happens, and from what I've heard, that it's meant to be that way.
They're trying to ape Western games. Oh, I'm just
well,
kidding.
no, it's it's part of that weird like sadism that the designer has, where it's like just to fuck with you. When you press attack, there's like a second and then a very slow sword swing.
Maybe that's why I like Japanese games better, but you know, like again, like when Sam's drinking Monster, or if you did, I don't know if you did the optional side quest where instead of drinking Monster, now he drinks porter beer.
No, what?
Oh yeah, there's an option. One of the standard orders, they ask you to pick up something from the Time Farm, and it's like
I think I delivered the beer to
yes,
Edgar Wright.
So well, when you go into your private room every time after that, the drink is not Monster anymore. It's like porter beer.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah, it's awesome. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, like the weird like Monster Energy trademark
tie-in.
Tie-in was bizarre, but like Kojima does a lot of bizarre things that
the iPod in Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah, or like the weird anime posters all around Mother Base and Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah, there's a lot of weird shit that's like, if you're not into it, that's cool. You're not into it. For other people, it's just like they don't really notice, and other people, I think, just find it funny.
Well, that's like, I love all of his Easter eggs. Like that's, I think, what got a lot of people who loved Metal Gear Solid. That's why they started. That's like what really hooked him in. If you like in the first game, if you go and lean up against the wall and knock on it, and the guy's like, the DARPA chief is like, what's that? Like little things like that. There's or like how we were talking about how like the end dies that way. God, I feel like there's another one because he has like a bunch of them. Like in Boktai, since it's like a game with a solar panel, if you're like standing outside while you play, light shines through all the windows. There's in Zone of the Enders, the second one. Like there's this one time where you're carrying one of your friends, or like she's following you, and if you go down too far into the heat zone and stay there too long, like she takes off her shirt and she's wearing like a tank top the rest of the game. It's like it's weird shit like that. Fuck, dude, I'm trying. Damn it. But like I love all of the like that's the other reason I'm a huge fan of him. Like Metal Gear Solid, when you have to find Meryl, you have to look at the back. It's like check the back of the package, which is like anti-piracy, but also like a fun gimmick where it's like, oh yeah, in the back of the package, there's literally a screenshot of the game where Snake says Meryl and it has her codec conversation. Like I'm glad that codec was back, but it's used so stupidly in 4 that it's like done away with. But codec was like one of the best gameplay elements I thought of Metal Gear Solid that made it different than like reading a book or watching a movie. So like anytime Kojima exploits things that are like super gamer type stuff, I think that's another reason I like him, because he's so into the medium as a storytelling device.
Oh yeah, and he's definitely into a lot of really idiosyncratic choices, like, you know, look at the back of the game to get Meryl's codec. Look at the back of the game box to get Meryl's codec code. Or in Metal Gear Solid 2, when everything's glitching and you're inside Arsenal gear, like I think you have to restart the game or reload it or something for it to work. And then like it's like, oh, Colonel Campbell's a robot or whatever.
I didn't do that. I just ran straight for it. I was like, oh, fission mailed, whatever.
Or like, you know, frickin', or the best is Psycho Mantis, how he can like move your controller and read your memory card, and then when he appears again in Metal Gear Solid 4, he can't move your controller because your controller's wireless.
Right.
Like...
And it's the 6-axis that didn't have the vibration function.
Yeah.
Fucking 6-axis. In Metal Gear Solid 3, if you die and you wait long enough, it says time paradox.
In Metal Gear Solid 5, I think they patched this, but earlier on, you could beat the sniper Quiet by airdropping care packages onto her head.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why would they take that out?
I don't know, because that's such a Kojima thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why they removed it, but it's like it's very much like him to have an option for you to cheese a boss that way.
Or like Metal Gear Solid 4, like if you put the magazine down and you're low on stamina, you put the magazine down and you look at it, it starts increasing your stamina bar. The other thing I like that I was sad that they did away with starting with 4, 'cause like I have a love-hate with Metal Gear Solid 4 because I love that they did all of this great stuff with it, where like they expanded it out farther than like, you know, they gameplay wise it was like incredibly, you know, more detailed and more things you could do than 3. But then they got rid of a bunch of stuff like the codec conversations. You only had 2 codec numbers for the most part.
But you also had codec conversations that last half an hour.
Right. Well, that's true. But you always did.
Yeah, kind of.
But that, or like the thing that I hated the most was taking away the quick reload option, which I realized was a glitch. It was kind of like a glitch that the game developers exploited for the player to use.
Yeah.
Where like you can, if you do a quick select of your item, it'll automatically reload it. That's awesome. And they got rid of it. And I was like, it took me a long time to get over that as a gameplay element. I was like, it's like the fundamental part of Metal Gear Solid is the quick reload for me.
The fundamental part of Metal Gear Solid that was changed by 4 was in earlier games you had to stand completely still in order to shoot somebody. And 4 you could shoot and move at the same time.
I actually hated that they moved the CQC button and the fire button to the shoulder buttons.
Yeah.
Like it's fine that they did that for like shooting, but I'm glad that in I don't know if they did this in 5, but in Death Stranding, like in order to shoot you'd have to hold L2 and then press R2, but you could use square to fight people.
In
like,
5 there's like a full-on CQC like workflow you can go through.
Oh my god. I loved my favorite thing of 3 was running up to people and use CQC on them. And like they had a bunch of stuff in 4, but it was so poorly implemented that like I never did it. It's like, just get me the gun and I'll start shooting people.
I love Metal Gear Solid 4 even with its flaws just because it's so much fun to play through. And like my brother played like he beat the game like 5 times or something and he got a bunch of achievements. Like he got like the solar gun.
Yes,
and stuff.
yeah.
Like
my friend beat it on the boss extreme with the solar gun. He had to do it twice. He had to do it twice because one time he hit someone with a solar gun that was on the wall, and the person fell to their death, and it counted as a death. Yep.
That sucks.
Yep. Yeah. So, but see, it's things like that too. It's like we'll bring it back to Death Stranding quickly, but like it's all of those little things that are like sprinkled throughout the game. Like all of those little elements, and the fact that he makes games where he actively encourages you not to kill people.
Yeah.
Since the first Metal Gear Solid.
Ever since the original Metal Gear, which is pretty great. And then the thing is in like Death Stranding, you know, in the Metal Gear games, they're combat games, so it's like if you kill someone, it's like, well, that's unfortunate, but you shouldn't do that, but oh well. Whereas in this, like
Snake's a trained killer, so it's like, okay, well, if it happens, it happens.
Whereas, in Death Stranding, like, you get actively punished for killing people. Like, you could cause a void out that destroys a huge chunk of the map that you can now no longer cross over, and, like, it covers the area in BTs, which actually makes the game harder.
Yep. Which is, like, another great element. Well, and then the other thing is, like, I haven't played 5, so I don't know how the shooting compares in Death Stranding to 5, but if the shooting is worse, and if it's kind of hard for Sam to shoot, it makes sense because Sam delivers packages. He's not Die Hardman. So
he's not Big Boss, the greatest soldier who ever lived.
No, he is not. Nor
He's so good at war. He wanted to create a world of perpetual warfare that soldiers will always have a purpose, which is also weirdly the plot of Star Trek Beyond. I thought it was so weird that Star Trek Beyond's plot is literally just the plot of Metal Gear, and Idris Elba is Big Boss.
That's amazing, though. Like, hey, man, Simon Pegg's a fan of a lot of things. It's possible he's a fan of Metal Gear Solid. Oh my god. Fuck. I mean, I don't even know where to go from here.
Yeah, I'll say something. We were talking about Revolver definitely. Ocelot and how his motivations make no sense. I think Amelie / Bridget Strand is the new Revolver Ocelot, where I played through the full game and I still don't know why she was doing any of what she was doing. Because she's like, has all these good intentions, like we need to bring the world back together, we need to make us whole again, which is very poor phrasing.
We are two Japanese writers that do not write in English.
Which is weird that they have so much wordplay and like puns in this game, given that it was written in Japanese. It's like all the strand, knot, bind, bridge, beach.
I'm guessing that because I know with Metal Gear Solid 4 they had like an American game consultant to help them out. So I'm wondering if they had like an American like writing consultant, because I'm sure there's a lot of similarity between those things in Japanese. Like
maybe I don't know.
I wouldn't know, but like it might just be the translators having fun at the game designer's expenses.
But like she seems to have all these good intentions in terms of like connecting the world again, but she's also like, I need to annihilate all life in the universe. So it's like, wait, which is it though? Like you're more confusing than Ocelot. At this point, like, do you want to connect everyone and make the world better, or just cause the end, like, collapse the universe and destroy everything? Because I guess, like, her motivation is, there's, like, these cycles of extinction that go on, and she wants to stop it by ending, like, time itself, which, okay, fine. If that's your motivation, cool, because it's, like, a good, like, supervillain sort of motivation, but also at the same time being, like, well, I want to connect the world and I want everyone to be happy, and like there's like it gets even weirder later on in the game where you sort of find out like her backstory. Like her backstory is whatever, but when you find out Sam's backstory with respect to her and how she's like she's slowly losing her mind and like bringing about this plan to start the end of days, but then almost kind of does it on accident out of like a moment of feeling bad for young Sam. Because like it's implied that the Death Stranding was originally started when, when Bridget, her human avatar, kills Sam as a baby, and then her Amelie, the World of the Dead avatar.
Yeah, her Ka.
Yeah, her soul, who exists in the world of the dead, finds Sam's spirit and feels really, really bad about it, and brings him back to life, but in doing so causes the Death Stranding. Like that's what allows, what allows the spirits of dead people to strand like whales on the beach of reality. God, these fucking metaphors are just too much.
You're getting overloaded in beached things, realities, strands, ropes, ladders.
Yeah, well, because the metaphor is like the world of the dead is like the ocean, and the world of the living is the land. And the space between them is the beach. And strand is another word for beach. And like whales become beached or stranded. Right. They wash up on the beach and die. The spirits of the dead become beached or stranded, where they wash up on the beach between worlds and end up getting stuck in the world of the living, where they wreak havoc. Which is really cool as like an intuitive metaphor, but when you try to explain it out loud, you sound like a moron.
Well, I mean, that's why the start of the game takes 3 hours to get started.
I know. And it also doesn't help that beach is strand is a synonym for beach, but it's also a synonym for like a rope that connects things. And then there's all this rope shit about knots and ropes and God.
That's what makes it so brilliant, though, is that
it is, but it's also annoying.
for lack of a better term, everything in the game is connected.
It's yeah, it is.
But that's why I love it so much. Like he took the metaphor and he just he didn't just run with it. He like put a jet rocket pack on him and just went all the way there the whole time.
Shot it into outer space like Elon Musk.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. He shot it all the way to outer space, so the Psychonauts could... No, not the Psychonauts. The Police Knots could bring it back down. Yep. The Police Knots.
But yeah, so like I'm not totally sure what Amelie / Bridget, why they were doing what they were doing, or what totally is going on, because they seem like their motivations seem very conflicted, and the game tries to like hand wave that away, where like it's just sort of implied that like Amelie / Bridget is insane,
right?
Or like, you know, is slowly going insane because she's got all these visions of the apocalypse, you know?
Right. Honestly, I don't know. I just know that I thought that she was bringing about the end of the world, and Sam had a moment where he could stop the end of the world from happening if he killed her, but the game, I think, forces you, instead of doing what you would think, which is to kill her, which is the game has been teaching you, no, you don't want to kill things. Mm-hmm. You go up to her and you hug her, and that like strands her on the beach forever, so that in another 1,000 years she will cause an extinction event.
Well, I think it's something like it stops her from doing anything so that humanity can survive until the next Death Stranding, when another extinction entity comes along and tries to start it up. Because I think her deal was like she realized that she would somehow cause a mass extinction, and is like, well, what if I just cause a final extinction instead? Mm-hmm. So instead of some species survive and continue on until the next mass extinction, what if I just end it all right now?
Did you try to shoot her?
No.
I didn't either. But that part was kind of spoiled for me already.
Oh. Yeah, I was trying to figure out, like, I was like, I shouldn't shoot her, but I don't know what to do. And then I figured out, it's like, oh, you can run up to her. Like, after, you know, failing the thing several times.
Oh, you failed?
Well, it's like you reset, it resets, you know, like the world blows up, and it's like, would you like to connect again? And then you have to replay that moment until you do it right.
Oh, seriously? Yeah. Oh, wow. Because I knew what to do, so I just went, wow.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know what to do.
Oh, my God. Did you try talking to her?
No, I was
did
like,
you try
what do I do?
The center button? Oh, wow.
I put the gun away. I tried doing a bunch of other stuff, and then it's like, because the whole thing is like you have trouble running in water.
Right.
So
you wanted to stay away.
I figured I couldn't follow her into the ocean. And then it's like, oh, wait, let me try this. And it's like, oh, I can follow her into the ocean.
Well, so I guess that's also part of where I have a little bit of problems with the game, because at least with Metal Gear Solid, if I was ever stuck, I could open up the codec and ask what I need to do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The codec tells you what to do.
But like for the game, you could read emails, but at that point you wouldn't. So I honestly don't know how you would have come to that conclusion. Like,
yeah, you have to just either look it up or like try out different options until you get it.
Yeah, but I guess looking it up, you have to go on the internet, connect to the internet, and use someone else's advice. Oh no, we've gotten 18 layers deep in the metaphor category for Kojima's game now. Oh God. Oh
yeah,
my God.
It's also like there's a few moments like that, like where you have to like after you beat the Amelie Higgs like monster boss. Mm-hmm. And you have to... Higgs takes Amelie to the beach, and you have to figure out how to get to the beach, and it does not explain at all to you how. And then you have to use Fragile's like umbrella jump.
Yep.
But the thing is, like, I never used that in the entire game, so I forgot it existed.
I think I used it a couple of times.
Or no, I used it one time. But I forgot that was an option.
I used it a couple times, and then I was like, I was running around. What I was gonna do was I was gonna jump. I was going to try and climb onto a building and then commit suicide to see if, like, maybe, like, I messed up. Because, like, right before that, you become, a repatriate or a repatriate. And I thought I had fucked up by finding... It's
repatriate, but Guillermo del Toro's weird act, like,
a repatriate.
His Ren and Stimpy actor says it, repatriate.
Repatriate. But, like, after you revive... Like, I thought I had messed up, so I was like, oh, maybe I need to kill myself. And then Sam starts talking. If you run around enough, Sam starts talking. It's like, how am I going to get to the beach? What am I going to do? How am I going to get back to the beach? And I was like, oh, that's right, because in order to transport from point A to point B, you have to use the beach to transport there. And I was like, oh, let me run back to the fucking private room again.
Yep.
Where's the battery recharge station? Some other cool things. So yes, I agree that I don't understand Bridget's plan at all. But
I understand her plan. I just don't understand her motivations for her plan. Also, I don't understand her plan, quite honestly.
Yeah, like, as you were explaining it to me, I was like, I remember them talking about this. I don't remember.
Because I don't understand how Higgs is involved in her grand plan either. He seems like unnecessary.
I know. I mean, he was a cool villain.
He's totally a cool villain. Because the other thing with Kojima games is they have great characters designs, and typically they have cool villains. And Higgs is really cool.
Yeah, I feel like he's what Skullman was supposed to be, or Skullface.
Skullface. He literally is just Skullface again.
He is, but he can take it off, and he's got like that southern twang, and he's like, "Fuck, dude, this guy's."
Well, Skullface's whole plan was like kind of apocalyptic as well, because his whole thing was he believed that America had colonized the world and was kind of controlling everyone. So he wanted to wipe out the English language to remove the effect of like American colonization and culture, and then give everyone nuclear weapons that were all controlled by him. So everyone would be locked in like a nuclear stalemate, and that would somehow bring about world peace. And I'm like, dude, this guy's nuts.
Dude, that's amazing.
I know.
And people said Thanos' plan was crazy.
Dude, the plans of Metal Gear villains are always like amazingly insane.
I know, but that's what makes them so great.
Like, remember in Metal Gear Solid 2, Solidus' Snake's whole plan was to dismantle the government information controls with like memes or something.
Yeah. Yes.
Because he's like, it's like, memes are controlling the way that people think. We have to like have complete freedom of information, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? And then now we're like, I think everyone now should go back and play Metal Gear Solid 2, because the plot of that game is literally just the world we're living in right now.
Yeah. Well, and it's what year does that game take place in? I think it takes place in like 2007.
Yeah,
it
takes place in like the late 2010s, or no, in the late 2000s, the late aughts.
God, if people can even work their way through it, like it's
Metal Gear Solid 2. It's not that bad. It's not that convoluted. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, well, and as the years have gone, it's like we've had less and less like insane revisions to how games are played as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a nice kind of like through line where it's like it's not as bad. But it's still going to be kind of weird for people who had never experienced anything like that before.
Yeah.
As you know, I love the technobabble in Kojima's games, and I loved all of the weird technobabble stuff in Death Stranding. Like the way that the FG kill a BT, it like forms the shape of two hands.
Yeah. And like the chiral crystals are always like these hand-shaped things.
Yeah, and like the chiral network in general, how it's like this amazing network that can print objects like a 3D printer, but like it's all connected through a bunch of other stuff.
And it's like some weird technological advancement that's connected to like the land of the dead and can bring about the end of the world at the same time.
Which was like I thought that was Higgs's plan the whole time. He was like, or not Higgs's plan, Die Hardman's plan. No, John Die Hardman McClane.
Oh my God!
Did you just get that now?
I just got that now. What the fuck? John Die Hardman McClane. Jesus Christ.
Oh my God! But like I thought Die Hardman's plan was to like, because like they were like, oh, Die Hardman's up to no good. Die Hardman's up to no good. Be careful, Sam. Die Hardman is up to no good.
I don't trust the director.
I do not trust the director. But like, he had no idea that they just needed a more stable Cupid. That's what I got out of all of that. Like there was, like Mother was like, the Cupid is not stable enough, and I was like, it's not? Okay, can you make a more stable one? And she's like, well, no, not yet. but like we have to fake and pretend like we don't have one. But like I love all of the like weird science stuff, like how the BB gets autotaxemia, and how Sam Porter Bridges, a man who is trying to connect the world, his main issue is the fact that he doesn't like being touched, and by the end of the game he gets over it. I'm like, again, the metaphor all coming back in on itself. He is finally able to connect with something. Which is, a dead baby in a pod. Did you get all of the emotions at the end of the game when you had to put the BB in the incinerator?
Not really. I started tearing up during all of the Mads Mikkelsen stuff.
Oh, really?
Like where
the final connection?
Well, when you fight him in Vietnam, there's that cutscene where I got all like choked up at that, and then I got even more choked up at the end when like you get all the flashbacks played out like movie style instead of like through the eyes of a stillborn baby, which could be very confusing. And then like Mads Mikkelsen is like talking to Sam and all that stuff, and also when he like at the end when he's dying and he's like talking about how he's like, so like it's like I was worried being a father would make me scared, but it made me brave, and I'm like, oh fuck, dude.
Dude, Mads Mikkelsen is just incredible in this game. I'd say
He's
like
amazing.
almost all the actors are incredible in the game.
All the actors do really well, but Mads Mikkelsen is on another like level completely.
Yeah.
And I will say, I think Léa Seydoux does a really good job too, but she just has so many like bad puns she has to say.
I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile. Like they kept repeating it and repeating and repeating. So by the end of the game, as Sam's leaving, it's like fragile. It's like, I'm fragile, not that fragile, with like 60-year-old hands. Fucking only Kojima could. And then he explains why she has the 60-year-old hands. So weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I love this game so much. It's so weird. Oh, and the fact that, okay, here's another, I know this is another, but like how if you grab something with your left hand or your right hand, and it's like, oh yeah, you have to throw this, and the game is explicitly like, make sure if you want to throw it farther, you grab it in your right hand, because Ham throws farther in his right hand. I was like, no one else would ever put that in a game. No one else would care to be like, yeah, the character is explicitly right-handed. Mm-hmm. But this game has it. I was like, okay, that's... Oh, my God. But we should probably talk about some of the bad stuff about the game, too, to be fair.
Yeah, probably.
I actually don't like how the game goes away from the bola gun or like creative use of weapons. Like, I think that the fact that like the rope is your main melee weapon is a cool concept. And I like the idea of a bola gun. Again, we're talking about strands, and that you can use the bola gun on BTs, which I was like, oh, that's kind of cool too. I never did, but that's kind of cool. But then by the end of the game, I don't use that at all. I don't use the sticky gun, which was actually also really cool, and I kind of wish they did more with. But I didn't use either of those by the end of the game. I was just using guns. And by the time the game becomes kind of like more of a shooting gallery type game with like the terrorists who also have guns, the game kind of like I kind of got a little bit disenchanted with it. I thought it was really cool that they were using unique weapons, but the fact that they didn't follow through all the way, I didn't love.
I mean, I kind of get that. Like the bola gun's really cool for the mules, but when you're dealing with enemies with guns, it becomes different, you know?
Yeah.
The bola gun just becomes a liability at that point. And I think that, like, especially because boss battles with BTs become a bigger deal later on in the game, you need more robust weapons to deal with them.
But see, like, even then, it's like, I use the assault rifle, but really, I thought it was fun that they had, like, the hematic grenade launcher. I was like, oh, that's cool. Or, like, the quadruple rocket launcher. Like, oh, that's cool. So like those are still like in line with like, okay, that's cool shit that you can do. But like, you know, like assault rifles, like, And again, the enemy's equipment scales with you. So if they had thought of like because the enemies didn't have bola guns that they were using on you.
No.
If they had something and then you had something unique to counteract it, I think that would have been more interesting. But that's why I mean, like, I don't know how much of it was like a crunch time thing, or like we know that gamers will be more familiar with guns, so let's give them some typical gun type things. Even though you can get like a grenade launcher that would knock them out. I was like,
yeah, like I think
fun.
There could have been something else they could have done, that was more interesting and creative, other than just like, here's some guns that you see in other games that you have to use for the same reasons they're in other games.
Did you? How many times did you? Or I should say, do you have any criticisms? We can go back and forth like a tennis match here, while we try and think of them.
My biggest criticism is towards the opening. I think the game just starts way too slow. Like I said, it doesn't really get fun until Chapter 3, which is a shame, because like you don't want to have to kind of grit through a good few hours just to get to like, oh, now I'm having fun.
Right.
Which is I think why a lot of people abandon the game after they tried it, because like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help that it starts with about 2 hours of cutscenes. Like the gameplay itself is kind of okay, but like a lot of it feels like you're moving from cutscene to cutscene. But
yeah, it does.
I feel like if they don't start you off in the pace that they start you off with, by the time you get to the more complex mechanics of the game, you're gonna feel really overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think the only other big criticism I have is that the game, the communal aspect of it gets sort of minimized towards the end, where you're like trekking through the mountains and stuff. It gets minimized a bit, but not like too much. And then the final sort of chapter, like I said, where you cross back over all the territory you've covered, like that's really cool, because everything, all of the stuff you've built and that other players have built have made it what would otherwise be a terrifying task much simpler.
I would have shut off my game if they're like, yeah, you don't have anything, good luck.
I know, I would have shut it off too, but it's
Simulator.
like, it's really cool because you get to appreciate like how much easier it is now that you've put all this time in to build this stuff. But other than that part, a lot of it is more just you're on your own, in an isolated place, on the beach, in a BT encounter or whatever. Which, the best parts of the game, as much as I love boss battles and stuff, the best parts of the game for me were delivering packages while also building things and utilizing things that other people had built.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, I mean, there's an aspect of the community aspect in the boss battles where like another player will throw you some items.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but it doesn't happen frequently enough. Like, because like there were times I didn't have anything to attack the final boss with, and I just kind of was like running around like a chicken.
I know. And so, then like waiting for people to throw me blood bags and weapons.
Yeah, although I had plenty of blood. Did you play it on normal or hard?
Normal.
Yeah, I played it on normal as well, and like I had plenty of blood bags, but I was like, can I get another rocket launcher here? Because I just figured out how to beat the boss, and like he only has a sliver of health left. It took me that long to figure out what I had to do. But yeah, the thing about the community aspect is like when you go back to the first map of the game and you have to get back to the starting city, when they're like, yeah, you have to rely on other people's stuff, you have nothing. Like I could just I thought that was cool that you had to rely on what everyone else had built you.
Yeah.
But I also was wondering, like, if you don't play online, how are you going to survive this part of the game? Luckily, you don't need Plus to take advantage of it. But I was just like, man, that would really suck. You're going to have to, like, chug a long way.
Yeah.
And, like, without any vehicles or anything at the end of the game.
Yeah, because that's the thing, too. It's like once you get to the end of the game, like, you can't create any new vehicles. You have to go with what's around.
Yeah. You can, like, go into the garage and get, like, someone else's, which are always stock. But, like, for the most part, yeah, it's just, good luck, buddy. But, yeah. And, yeah, like, I agree, like, the boss battles were cool. Because there was what, like, I'm trying to think of all the boss battles. So obviously, the Higgs fight was really good. You had to fight the giant whale at the end. When you had Mama strapped to your back, did you actually fight and kill that thing, or did you just run?
I just ran.
Yeah, same here. You can kill it, but
yeah,
I just ran.
Every time that monster popped up, because it pops up 2 or 3 times in the end game as well.
Yeah.
I just ran all of those times.
Yeah, I did too. I employed the 7 samurai. You never have to worry about losing a battle if you run from it.
Exactly.
So that ended up being the best course of action. I also have a problem with the pace of the game. Like by the time you get to Hartman, I just was like, I had done too much shit, and this was just like a little bit too much. I was ready for the game to start wrapping up at that time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Although I think if you're a fan of like Nicholas Winding Refn, that kind of helps to get through that section.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem like delivering stuff to Hartman, but like, oh, I got to go to the paleontologist. And, like, I got to go to the like ecogeologist or whatever. And I was like, I'm so
the
done.
Evo-Devo biologist.
The Evo-Devo biologist.
Whatever that is.
I was pretty much done by that point of like, all right, now the game feels a little bit, it feels like it's getting a little long in the tooth.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Although the final, like when you have to get all the like tar draining equipment from the volcanic fields, I thought that was really cool.
Oh, when you put on the gas mask?
No. When you have to, like, it's like the most BT littered area ever. And you have to like fight your way through it and get like, you have to pick up like 7 packages from there.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh my god. I didn't have a sticky gun, and I was like, I'm an idiot. I should have gotten the sticky gun. Like, that would have made it a lot easier.
I had to reload an earlier save and load up on hematic grenades and then go back.
Oh my god. Why didn't you just go back and make some?
Because I was like stuck in it. Like I thought I could get through with just the cord cutter, but I couldn't. There were too many of them.
I should have done more of the cord cutter stuff. I ended up just sneaking past them for the most part. Like, that's another thing is like I got tired of BT sections because I would just hit the circle button and like slowly walk my way through them. Occasionally throw like a hematic grenade every now and then. But like but there were always so many that I could never, aside from a couple of early game areas, I could never purge an area unless I initiated the mini boss battle.
Yeah.
So,
which I tried to avoid at all costs.
I did if I was on a mission, but if I wasn't on a mission, I'd be like, yeah, let's see what happened. Yeah, I voided out a couple times.
Oh, that's no good. I managed to avoid voiding out the whole game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Lucky bastard. It's probably a lot easier the way you were playing it, where you're just like sneaking up to their corner. You're like, hey, guess what? Snip.
Yeah, or just, again, lobbing hematic grenades.
Yeah, I did that too, but I kept running out of them. Like, even when I could customize the backpack, I put a couple of grenade pouches there, but I ended up running out of them too many times.
Anytime I saw a mission that looked like it was going through a BT area, I would load up with like 6 hematic grenades and like 6 blood bags, which translates to, I think, 30 grenades or something.
Yeah.
And that usually was enough to do it. Not to like purge the area of BTs, but to...
But just like create a line through.
Create a path through all the objectives, yeah.
I ended up using... The other thing I liked was the exoskeletons. I thought that was a cool...
Yeah, I like those as well.
That was a really cool idea. And so I ended up using a speed exoskeleton at the end of the game when those like the things that are dropping on you. Like, yep. I like that you could approach it multiple ways. Like, if you wanted to, you could shoot all of them and clear your path. You could run past them. You could sneak past them. The fact that that there's all of these tools out there for you to use is really cool, including the ladder and the rope, which I used the entire game, which is kind of a credit to like the design of the game, where they're going to be your first 2 items. You're going to use them all the time.
Yep.
So
I know because if I wasn't using ladders and ropes that I brought, I was using other people's.
Yeah, pretty much. Especially in the windfall farm. Oh my god. The wind farm I hated all the time.
Oh, yeah. The one that's like at the base of the mountain, the weather station, you mean?
No, not the weather station. The weather station I didn't have a... Was it the weather station? Yes.
You're talking about the Timefall farm.
No, not the Timefall farm.
The weather station?
The one that was like in the first map, and it was like you'd have to go up this mountainy path, and like it would always be windy, and the game's like, remember, if it's windy, Sam has a harder time moving. And then you had to like go down into the area, and after like the first time you deliver a package there, it's just continually swarming with BTs. But it's an early game area, and like, but I kept having to go there, and I was like, I hate coming here. It's such a pain in the ass to get here, and I'm always overloaded, and I want to just deliver packages. That's before I knew how to play the game, apparently. Which I feel like a lot of people don't know how to play the game properly for a game that has like so many ways you can approach it.
The game is a bit obtuse. You are. It just sort of says like, "Hey, keep this in mind," and then leaves you to figure out like, how to optimize everything, which I think is how most games should be played, or they should be set up. Where it's like, I think it's more fun to get like these are the controls. Here are some suggestions. The rest is for you to figure out.
Yeah, I don't like games fully holding your hand, but like I do also like games that like, especially a lot of games that have little Easter eggs like this game does. I'm glad that it doesn't tell you exactly what to do, but like certain things that develop over time, like, you know what, you don't want to continually overload Sam with packages. You want to manage your stamina really well. You want to pee every now and then. Which I was really happy when I peed in the snow. It melted the snow. I was like so happy. It wasn't as cool as like real life, because the way that the snow simulations work, it just made it like a huge pathway. But it was still cool that detail's in there. But like I feel like a lot of people, I thought it was crazy that you were talking about how you relied on vehicles the majority of the game. I barely used vehicles. Like I would use it to get from point A to point B. But if I ever had to go up mountains and stuff, I was just like, I'll just hike it.
Dude, I was riding bikes up and down mountains and shit. Like,
oh my god. I'm so jealous.
I know. I used vehicles. I abused vehicles. That's how much I used vehicles, man. Like, the reverse trike was my best friend.
Did you destroy one so far that you actually had to reclaim it? Or whatever it was to get it back, to repurpose it, get the parts back?
No, if ever I reached a part where I had to abandon the vehicle, I just abandoned it and let it get destroyed by timefall while I progressed to my destination on foot.
I also thought that was cool. Like, that was cool that like there's rain in the game and like it actually has a purpose.
Yep.
Like,
and
I thought
snow.
that was and snow, which also God. The whiteouts.
Yeah, it's cool because this is like one of the few games where weather has a really big impact. Weather and just the environment and the topography have a huge impact on like what you can do.
Yeah, and how you approach it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know like for a map that's meant to represent the entire United States, it's not the most varied, but I think
it's also so tiny.
I know, but games can only be so big within, before they just start to crumble under the weight of their own size, like Skyrim or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even like, but like to say that like, oh, that's the entire United States. It would have been nice if there was like a document that like, oh, a chunk of the United States broke up and became the United Cities, and it was exactly shaped like the United States but smaller. I'd be like, okay, I could buy that. That's fine. I'll understand that, especially because there's no. Well, that actually here's a question for you. There's no day-night cycle in the game.
No, there isn't.
Is that because it had something to do with the moon? Because every time you'd go to the beach, you could see the moon. Mm-hmm. So was the moon like destroyed?
I don't know. I think there just is no day-night cycle in the game because they couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm okay with that because
I don't mind.
Because like, imagine trying to like fight BTs at night.
Oh god,
that sounds horrifying.
I wonder if that's one of the reasons. The other thing is like you're never traveling that far, and so it doesn't feel like sometimes day-night cycles, like in Zelda, the N64, they'd have day-night cycles, but it was like, oh, every 15 minutes the changes from day to night, and it's like doesn't feel realistic at all. It just feels like a thing you put in there. So I'm wondering if that also had an effect on it, that they're like, well, you know what, it feels more like we're in real time if there's no day-night cycle.
Yeah, I think that could be part of it too. I just don't think it was feasible to put a day-night cycle in the game, or they just didn't have enough time, or something, or they didn't think it mattered that much.
Right.
That's just a choice. It's like, if we have to sacrifice, if there's something that doesn't matter, it's a day-night cycle, at least for the purpose of this game. It's funny because speaking of Japanese game design, there's a game called Dragon's Dogma, which is like one of those. Like, it's just kind of like a big open world, like
I've played
Western
through
fantasy. You played through it?
Yeah, I beat it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So like the day-night cycle is a huge deal in Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, because the harder enemies come out at night, right?
And you can't see. You always have to have like a torch or a lantern because you can't see shit.
That's right, because it's so dark. God, it's been a long time since I played that game.
Dude, my brother's a huge fan of Dragon's Dogma. I just got so frustrated by that game.
They were supposed to come out with a sequel to it.
I'm not surprised because I thought that game was kind of like a cult hit, you know?
Yeah, it is. Well, and they have the game itself, and then they released an expansion pack.
Yeah, the Dark Arisen.
Yep, and then they had it come out on PC with enhanced features. So, and it's by the guy who did Devil May Cry. So, like Devil May Cry 3, 4, 5, like he's the one who like oversaw it. And so there's definitely room for like all of the different elements of the game, like the whole like Shadow of the Colossus grabbing on and attacking the beast. There's like a lot of elements that can be improved upon and like made more cohesive. But I mean, I enjoyed it enough. I ended up kind of speeding through the end of the game though.
Of Dragon's Dogma?
Yeah. Because it was just it's a lot.
It is a lot
of games. It's a lot of content. One more thing, because like speaking of Shadow of the Colossus and like open empty world Japanese games, one thing that I liked about Shadow of the Colossus and one thing I like about this is like we talked about there's no day night cycle. There aren't any like ambient birds or like anything like that, bugs or anything like that, except for cryptobites. And like I feel like this is a game that worked around its limitations. Like it had a set thing it had to do. They had a certain amount of time that they could get it done feasibly, a certain budget, and they were able to focus on what they absolutely needed to get done for the game.
Yeah.
And any other sort of limitations, they were able to build around it. Like, ditch the day-night cycle. You don't need it. It adds to the world of the game. Not a lot of
animals.
Ditch animals. They're not going to serve any purpose in the game. Limit the amount of enemies you face. Okay, well that's good because like we'll make him a guy who doesn't fight people, and like because he doesn't fight people very often. Like the most of the game isn't going to be about fighting people. It's going to be about movement tech.
Yeah.
So
you don't see a lot of people in person weave it into the story. It's like it's kind of like a broken world where everyone's in hiding.
Yeah, like we can't have like fully populated towns. Okay, well we're going to put everyone below town because of something called timefall, which looks just like rain but causes a lot more deterioration. Like very smart use of the old. Working around your limitations.
Yeah, they do a good job of kind of working around the limitations, hiding the flaws, or at least kind of excusing the flaws.
Yeah.
So that they're not...
Or building flaws into the story and making it a part of it. Yeah,
so you don't really notice them, or they don't bother you the way they might normally.
That's why this game reminded me a lot of Shadow of the Colossus in the sense of like, Shadow of the Colossus, they knew what their main thing was. They had a big world, and then they didn't have enough processing power or time to put anything in it, and they're like, "Fuck it,
except
we're
lizards."
just gonna, except lizards and like fruit. Okay, that's fine. We'll work around it." And so I always appreciate games that can do that really well. And again, this feels like Shadow of the Colossus because of the barren world as well. It's like, it's interesting because you don't play games that have this empty feeling very often. So.
Yeah, and it's also like the empty feeling kind of contributes, I think, or at least it contributed to my satisfaction with the later portions of the game where like all this stuff has been built and all that, because it's like, oh, look, the game was empty, but now it's full of things.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, people have been walking around here and they've been traversing it. And, maybe the other thing was like they have little porters every now and then. They have good guys walking around.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's cool too. So it's almost like you can feel the effect that you're having on the world as you're building the world, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really cool game. So metaphorical, dude.
This is so metaphorical.
It's the most metaphorical.
I know. I feel like, with all this coronavirus shit, I feel like if people get locked down, they should just play Death Stranding. Because it's a very like hopeful game, and it's about like coming together in a time of crisis and stuff.
It's all about connection. It's also funny because like the guy who made Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and he makes this like hopeful game about like reaching out to the world and connecting with people, and it's like, okay, didn't see that coming, but I'm down. I'm down.
Which is really interesting given that all the Metal Gear games are like hyper paranoid conspiracy thrillers.
Super depressing. Like, yeah. Dude, Kojima's like, he's an amazing game designer. I think because he doesn't approach it from like a typical way. Like, I think I follow his Twitter, and like in his Twitter account, he's like, I started with a laptop, a pen, some paper, and an idea, and it became Death Stranding. And like, that's super hopeful and motivational. And I'm sure getting like fired by Konami was like a huge influence on like, wow, all of those people that I used to work with, a lot of them are gone. Who do I still have connections with? Who can I still work with?
Well, I mean, he's got buddies at Platinum.
That's true.
They also make really good games that
they do
control insanely well. Like Vanquish is probably like the best controlling third-person shooter I've played in a long time.
Really? I did like Revengeance a lot, and I like Bayonetta a lot.
I never was able to play Revengeance. I do want to go back and play that, because I know you really like it, and my brother really likes it.
I mean, I like hack and slashes, and it's kind of goofy, like really goofy. And there's like just enough Metal Gear in it. But really, the speedrunning community for Revengeance is crazy. But the game itself is pretty like metal. Yeah. Not just because he's made of it, but you know.
Well, it's a very Platinum Games game.
It is, but it has just enough Kojima-iness in it as well. You know, there's just enough.
I think it's fair to say, like, I think Kojima's a genius game developer. I think he's like Steven Soderbergh in the sense that not all his ideas are good, but they're all interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I would probably put him more in like, who would his equivalent be? Because like not all of his ideas in the games themselves are good, and I would like attribute that to like, oh, there's problems in the script, but like fundamentally all of his games are solid.
Yeah, I don't dislike any of his games that I've played, and I really adore the Metal Gear games, especially. Yeah.
I mean, who would I? Because he also he's not quite, but no, I'm not. I would have been like, yeah, he's kind of like a Kubrick of game design, because he like hits a bunch of different quadrants, and all of his games are like incredibly well done, except for the one that he didn't get to finish. And they all have parts that people won't like, parts that people will like, but he's definitely also left a huge imprint on the video game landscape.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite as innovative now as he was earlier in his career, when his ideas were really radical.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Kubrick comparison, I think one of the things with Kubrick is that
he kept
every movie he made introduced something new to the language of cinema. Like it introduced a new technique or a new way of using a technique or something that then just got like copied to death.
Yeah.
Whether it's all his Steadicam shots in The Shining, his use of zooms in Barry Lyndon, his his style of storytelling in 2001: A Space Odyssey. He always seems to be pushing the boundaries of what film, or at least mainstream film, can do. Whereas I think Kojima, he obviously like blew the doors open by creating the stealth genre.
Yeah.
And, has been kind of innovating within that. And I think he wanted this to be a similar like leap forward into the future of game design. And I think I don't think it wasn't that, it's not a new genre like he wanted it to be, I think, but it does a lot of really interesting things that I haven't seen before, or just you don't see very much of, or done on this scale,
Yeah. Well, that's why I like him too, is because he shows me things that I didn't know that you could do. He's like the Pixar of video game designers. Terrible marketing campaigns, but amazing games.
But yeah, because the whole community build the world together aspect of this game, it's like, there's other games that kind of do that. Like, I think there's versions of Minecraft where you can build stuff with your friends.
Yeah.
But I think, it's the way he weaves it all together with sort of his very admittedly heavy-handed themes and storytelling, I think is really well done, and it's very unusual. Because it's not a game about like coming together with your friends to do something. It's a game about being alone and connecting with strangers to do something. Like having to take like a leap of faith in that way. And the game does a good job of showing you like, look, if you take the risk and you commit resources to improving things that may seem like weirdly bizarre, like huge and too big for one person to do, like other people will join you, and together it'll all work out. And I think that's really neat.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, and that Well, I would also say he's got a bunch of aspects. Maybe he's closer to like, well, no, because Scorsese was copied all the time too. I don't know. It's weird. It's hard for me to make a film comparison because like his games are so kind of off the wall, and he kind of has like an influence, but not necessarily, because like his long cutscenes became standard for a while. Everyone started having really long cutscenes in games.
Yeah,
but they weren't like using like gameplay specific or like game mechanic specific things, which is what I like about Kojima, and which is what I think is cool. Like you said about the world, is like it's a gameplay mechanic specific thing that also has an effect on the world, and it doesn't quite make sense in the world, but it also does make sense in a weird way. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to have like a little bit of like, well, this makes it more convenient for the player, and we don't have to explain exactly why it works, but it does work.
Yeah.
Logically.
That's really interesting, actually, because he was kind of the first guy as well. Like, his other big innovation, besides kind of creating the stealth genre, was making games cinematic and his use of cutscenes. Because then, you know, it's like everyone's been comparing games to movies ever since he started doing that.
Yeah.
To the point where, you know, the new God of War is just an interactive movie.
Is that game any good? Everyone
I've heard
keeps
it's
telling me
really
it's amazing.
good. Yeah. A lot of people have told me it's great, but I was never a big fan of the original like hack and slash God of War.
Yeah.
And this game seems so pretentious that I just can't get into it. Because like every review is like the whole game is in one long take. It's like, okay, Alfonso Cuarón, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. That's how I felt too. Like maybe we should just dive in and play it and see. Because a lot of people are like, oh, it's amazing and the twist is amazing. And I've played through God of War 1, 2, and 3, so I know the story. I don't like the story. I think the games they're decent, but they have like serious mechanical problems, and like they're just like they're kind of like every reason I hate American action games.
Well, it's funny because the story of the original God of War games was like moronic, you know.
Well, and it's weird because like in that first game, which has kind of set the pace for all three of the main God of War games, it's like the whole game is to get the MacGuffin to fight the final boss. Like if Kratos' mission is I need to kill Ares, the whole game is a MacGuffin to get it. Like the whole game is I need to get this item, which will allow me to get this other item to kill Ares.
Yeah.
Which is dumb.
Yeah,
like
all the games are just jacked dude is angry, must kill, go.
Exactly. And again, the best parts of those games are the platforming sections because the combat is not particularly deep or complex, which I don't like. Like that's why because I loved the Ninja Gaiden for Xbox, and then I enjoyed Ninja Gaiden 2 as well. Ninja Gaiden 3 was horrible. But like the mechanics in those games are like super solid. There's a lot of little things you have to learn that can assist you in the game. Whereas with God of War, it's like you can literally use square, square, triangle to get through the entire game. And no matter how many times they tried to get out of doing that, there was just another combo that was like another square, square, triangle that you could use. 2 was the best, but
God of War, I think, seems to reflect its era whenever it's being made, because it's like, you know, at that time, it was like an age of Devil May Cry rip-off games. Like,
yeah.
Like, I remember the Ghost Rider game that was like a tie-in to the Nicolas Cage movie was just a Devil May Cry ripoff. So there was a lot of that stuff floating around, and so God of War was another one that was in that style. And I guess now we're in the age of like Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us 2 being these like prestige games that everyone fawns over. So it's like, all right, well, what if we made God of War into Uncharted?
That's the other thing, because God of War's big innovation was these like big set piece moments of like quick time events.
Yeah.
And so it like at least had one thing that was original, and then everyone copied it, and those events got ridiculous. And so then they're just like, it just.
I mean, shit,
again,
even Star Wars: The Force Unleashed was a fucking Devil May Cry ripoff.
Yep, it was. Where you had to, where like you could take down a Star Destroyer, but every time you went to a door, you had to do this like little mini game to force it open. Like
you had to mash the circle button to open it.
Like, yeah, it's like, can't he just blow the door open with his force powers? He took down a Star Destroyer. Like, that was where I was like, I didn't realize it at the time, but the game's dissonance, that's what I found out that was what I was having a problem with. But yeah, the new God of War that came out looked just so derivative of everything that I was like, I don't know if I want to play it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of video games. It's, I just kind of I'll get new entries of series that I really like and just can't get tired of. Like, I'll never get tired of Borderlands. If they make a Borderlands 4, I will buy it and I will play the whole thing just because I love that gameplay loop and how just silly it is.
That's actually, it's incredible that you're a fan of Borderlands. I know a lot of people who really like the way Borderlands plays.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. Or like, I got The Outer Worlds because that game looks like a blast, and it's kind of like, I like the Fallout type games, and this looks like Fallout with all of the Bethesda clunkiness. Hopefully, so we'll see how that goes. And then basically anything Kojima does, I'll at least give it a try because, like I said, he's never not interesting. Yeah. And he's really ambitious. Like, he's always trying to do something crazy. And I feel like, this isn't necessarily something crazy, but it's pretty different.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, it is like, it gets a lot of flack for being a walking simulator. And like, it is, but it's like if you had a walking simulator made by the guy who has made some of the best controlling action games ever, like focusing singularly on making sure he does one thing almost perfectly. So, and on top of that, it's like you said, the part no one talks about is the network play, which is incredible. And the fact that the game continues to build on top of itself, whereas other games might not build on top of themselves, I think is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great the way the world does evolve as you progress through the game. Yeah. Whereas, most open world games, it's like, go to this area, complete this arc of the story, go to this other area, complete this other arc of the story. Like, the world isn't continually changing with you as you do stuff. I mean, some games do that, but most do not.
Yeah. And at least not to the degree that this game does. Yeah. For sure. Because it's not like a set progressive thing. It's like, oh, well, you unlock this and we're going to dot a bunch of random shit in it. So, I mean, it's cool because it's always going to be different for whoever you're playing with. So, yeah. I mean, I like it a lot. I'd probably give it a Witness overall, or like a low shiny in Chrome, just because I know that a lot of people, just because it drags a little bit in the 3/4 mark. Yeah. And because like a lot of people will not be able to have fun with it, I think a lot of people will not have the attention span to put in the time to like get it. And I think also the fact that it's so heavy-handed, it like front loads all of this really weird stuff. Like, did you know Kojima's a fan of film? This is Die Hardman. Did you know that? Like, oh, did you know he was a fan of film? Here's Guillermo del Toro playing Dead Man. Like, I think a lot of that will turn a lot of people off initially, but if they stick with it, I think it's ultimately really worth it.
Yeah, definitely that. I think I would give it a solid shiny in Chrome just because I really loved it, but it is major pacing issues, which is going to frustrate a lot of people. Yeah. And it frustrated me to a degree.
It definitely frustrated me near the end, and I still think it's one of the best games I've played in a while, although I did like Assassin's Creed Odyssey a lot, or Assassin's Creed Origins. I actually liked that a lot. That was a lot of fun. But again, it's weird because like the Assassin's Creed people have also got like a bit of Kojima in them, which I like.
Assassin's Creed is an interesting franchise because I remember the first game was like such a neat idea, but it was just like
it felt like they weren't able to follow it through all the way to the end. It just sort of felt like limited,
In the first one, yeah.
Yeah, and then Assassin's Creed 2 was incredible. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was even better. And then since then, I felt like it's all just gone to shit. They have no idea what they're doing. They keep radically changing everything about the game each time, and it becomes more and more nonsensical. I wonder if it's a running joke, like Revolver Ocelot's allegiance. Like, just nothing makes sense now.
The meta-narrative in the game is just, like, a mess. So it's like, I heard that, so Unity is supposed to be awful because it had a ton of bugs. Syndicate's supposed to be pretty good. And then I think they took like a year off, and Origins completely changed the gameplay style, so it's more RPG-like.
Yeah,
and
which I thought was weird.
It's actually a lot of fun.
Well, part of what I liked about Assassin's Creed is that it's not RPG-like.
The first
it's an
one.
open world. The first few, like Assassin's Creed 1, 2,
They
2
started-
and a half, 2 3/4, and 3.
With
Like,
2,
3
they
gets a
started
little
introducing
more.
RPG elements.
A little bit, but not really. Like, you can buy shit, but that's it.
Yeah,
Well,
to increase it, yeah. But I use the same.
But like, there's
sword
no
every game,
leveling
I thought.
up. There's no like, oh, here's a new skill. There's no
Yeah.
skill trees, which I find annoying. I think a big beef I have with a lot of modern game development is they throw in like skill trees and RPG elements where they're not needed to beef up a game that would otherwise be kind of empty. It's like there's not like this game doesn't have as much stuff in it, so we're just going to add a skill tree where you have to invest in swinging a sword or whatever. Whereas like, Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2, you could do everything. It's just a matter of like, at a certain point in the story, you acquire a new tool for a story purpose, and then you can use it for the rest of the game.
Yeah, which is kind of like Death Stranding.
Yeah, it's kind of like Death Stranding. Yeah, because I don't want to have to spend skill points on like shooting a bow or something.
Yeah. I can understand that, or like buying a new bow to like do this or that. Like I get it, and it's when we talk about derivative series, like Assassin's Creed is definitely a series that is based that after the first game had an incredible like gameplay foundation. Mm-hmm. Everything since then has just been like taking derivative elements of other games and putting it in.
And it's weird how they've done it too, like how the combat's changed. Like Assassin's Creed 1 and 2, the combat's very defensive, so everything's counterattacking. And then Assassin's Creed Brotherhood onward, they're like, well, we want to make it more offensive based, so you're not just having to counterattack everybody, which I thought was cool, and it opened up some cool new possibilities. And then Unity comes along, and they're like, well, it's your character's too overpowered now, so we're gonna have to scale them back. And then by doing that, it's like we're gonna make it like Dark Souls, where the combat's really grinding and slow, and every enemy can one-shot you, but also the game's incredibly glitchy.
Yeah, and that's why they said the PC port of Unity is really good, because there's like a day one patch there's a patch that as soon as you get it, it fixes all of the glitching issues.
Yeah,
but I'll skip Unity. I haven't heard anything good about it.
Neither have I. I mean, I played a little bit of Unity, and it sucked. But after that point, I kind of wrote the series off. I mean, I didn't even finish Assassin's Creed 3 because I got bored, because everything was so on rails in that game. The nice thing about the first few games is like, I like the fact that you could go after the target. Like, once you had a target, you could go after them almost at any time. But like, you were rewarded for doing all the side missions where you like collect information, and like you get like maps and patrol patterns and things like that, so you could plan it more carefully. And it's weird because those games, like the stealth was really bad, so it's weird to have like Assassin's Creed where you can't sneak. You're just running around like a maniac. But that's having all that information and gathering all those clues and things, like, helps you at least direct your running around like a maniac in a more purposeful and targeted way.
And it was cool because there were, at least in 2, there were multiple ways to approach an assassination. I know that in Brotherhood, they ran into a problem where it was a little bit too linear with your assassinations. So they tried to find ways to open it up in other games. And it's nice because there's a little bit more of like, oh yeah, you can directly assassinate someone in Origins. But no, it is a lot of like, there's not a lot of opportunities to assassinate characters as much as there were in like 2 and 3. And I liked how in 2, like you were saying, like, oh yeah, but you can't really sneak around. I like the fact that the game was all about sneaking around in plain sight. Like, I thought that was a cool concept. But yeah, you're right. It's funny because the game came out and, like, at the time they were like, oh, I don't know, it's too repetitive. And now we call that repetitive the gameplay loop. And, like, it actually has a really good gameplay loop that they never have done anything with since, like, Assassin's Creed, the Revelations.
Although I'm so glad they got rid of the fucking tower defense minigame from Assassin's Creed Revelations.
I lost every single one of those.
I know, those are so bad.
It was so, like, there's a way to do tower defense. Like, it was perfected in 2D. Don't try and add a third dimension that makes it worse. Don't do it. But I think a lot of people were actually happy when they did away with a lot of the boat stuff as well. Because Black Flag was like, it's like, oh, this is no longer Assassin's Creed, is it? And, like, the idea of, like, working for the Assassins, like, to be an assassin of, like, oh, freedom is our most important thing. Whereas, like, with the Templars, I guess it's like, I wouldn't even be able to tell you. Like, I don't know. It went far. It started to spiral far from its roots when half the time you're playing as a person who should actually be a Templar. It's like, it's getting weird.
Yeah, like I said, that series just seems to be a colossal mess. It lost its luster for me a long time ago.
Yeah. A lot of games have trouble jumping generations.
They do,
like,
which is understandable.
The fact that Assassin's Creed has somehow survived and have made better games, even if they don't feel like Assassin's Creed, is still kind of commendable to me. Like, I'll give them credit. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have much else to say about Death Stranding.
Neither do I. I think we've said quite a lot.
I think so. I know what's going to happen is we're going to be done recording and I'll be like, oh, we should have talked about this aspect of the game, but but alas, it's, that idea has just been placed in the time fall too long and it's deteriorated to nothing. To awkwardly, like, lump in some of the game, something about the game there. Well, as that wraps it up, I guess we should say make sure to download us and subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Yes. Our website is underthewheels.wixsite.com/blog.
Yep. Hopefully we'll see if that continues to be updated. You can email us at underthewheelspodcast@gmail.com. Do we have anything else? Do we have anything else we need to plug? We don't have an Instagram or Twitter.
No, we don't.
Which is probably for the best.
Yeah.
maybe a Twitter to get the word out there. Something I haven't done in a while. I wanted to thank Mike for the music that we've been using for like 6 or 7 episodes now, and never given him credit except for the first time. So
what we could do is we could set up, like, our own Under the Wheels chiral network, but instead of chiral stuff, it's toilet paper. It's a toilet paper distribution network.
The toilet paper distro center.
We'll have porters who run around with, like, babies strapped to them, delivering toilet paper to people.
We'll get Mike to be a repatriate. Just load him up with toilet paper, have him run from city to city in the United Cities. The United Cities of Orange County. Just like, watch out for those mules. They want to take your toilet paper, and they're all covered in shit.
I know. I can just imagine the real world Amelie's like, Sam, I need to wipe my hole again.
Sam, bring me the level 2 wet naps. I need those.
Yeah, you get the level 1 wet naps when you connect a doomsday prepper, and then if you 3-star their location, you get level 2 wet naps that are also antibacterial.
Like, every now and then they're going to be like, oh, this is fragile merchandise. It's triple ply.
You have,
oh, God.
You have Purell grenades that you throw at people with coronavirus.
Every now and then someone orders a bidet. You have to keep it flat. Fragile merchandise. Oh, my God.
Instead of timefall shelters, you have coronavirus shelters that are, like, just giant bidets.
Giant bidets with, like, actual, like, hand washing stations and stuff. Like, as you're doing it, like, oh, we didn't even talk about the Odorex scanner. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. That tells you how hard it is to walk in a straight line.
No, I use the living shit out of the Odorex scanner. I thought it was brilliant.
I used it constantly.
That was such a Kojima-y thing too. I was like, oh, this is cool. But yeah, we need to get Mike an Odorex scanner so that he can scan around and make sure that there's no coronavirus on the floor and no shit anywhere. Hook him up to a baby that can sense over the particles. It's like, oh, that fence. Oh, nope, that's a bunch of red X's. Oh, but that fence. Oh, that's orange ones. You can climb that one easily. Go ahead, use that one. Okay.
And we'll have to communicate with everyone via hologram because no one's leaving their house.
Yeah, exactly. And even though they have like a network of like, you know what? It's funny because they have like, oh well, no, he had codec. I was gonna say it's like they don't have phones, but he has codec.
So. I know they brought back the Metal Gear codecs.
Yeah, I know. I loved it.
It's interesting how there's a lot of like Metal Gear-ish gameplay elements in this, like the codec, like all of the equipment. It's all white outlines, like in the Metal Gear games. With like descriptions on all the features and how to use them that are usually so long you have to scroll down to any tiny little window that shows up.
Instead of having someone explain it to you, like, oh, this is an A24 Magnum shotgun. It uses this type of rounds that are made from this kind of steel. The round is direct injected in and pushed forward by a spring mechanism.
Oh god, remember when you would just get like a handgun in Metal Gear Solid 2 and then Otacon would explain the fuck out of it like any of it mattered?
No, dude, in the first Metal Gear Solid game, it was McDonald Miller who sounded oddly like Liquid Snake.
I know.
Hey, that's SOCOM gun.
Kazuhira Master McDonald Miller is a very important character in Phantom Pain, by the way.
I've heard. Well, it was also funny that Johnny Sasaki they had to bridge the gap between like the Japanese version of Metal Gear Solid and the American, so they kept calling him Akiba, which was his name in Japanese, and so Kazuhiro McDonald Miller.
McDonald Master Miller.
McDonald Master Miller. Oh god. Oh god.
Or
but yeah.
What's the full list of Ocelot's nicknames?
I don't know.
It's
I only know him as like, oh man, like Special Forces GRU operative, Revolver Ocelot.
Revolver Ocelot. Yeah, it's like Revolver Ocelot, aka Ocelot, aka Shalashaska, aka Adam, aka
Adamska,
aka Major Ocelot, aka Liquid Ocelot.
Oh god, Liquid Ocelot, brother.
Who's affiliated, and his allegiances are to Foxhound, the Patriots, the GRU, KGB, and CIA as a free agent, Outer Heaven, and the Diamond Dogs.
Oh my god.
So he has like 8 names. He's part of 8 conflicting organizations.
He has like 3 different voice actors.
Yep.
The Colt Single Action Army, the greatest handgun ever made. Fuck. Oh, the Odorex scanner, codec. Oh, the other thing that I wish, it's like we were done talking about Death Stranding. The only other problem I had with Death Stranding is usually Kojima's games, you can like manipulate the fuck out of cutscenes by like zooming in and shit.
Yeah.
You couldn't really do that in this, but anytime it was on a menu, you could put your finger on the button, on the large button, and rotate your controller and see the whole 3D imaging. And you could even do it on codec calls. I was like, yes!
That's cool.
So anyway.
I know in Metal Gear Solid 5, you can't manipulate the cutscenes very much either, because a lot of them are like very select camera angles and stuff. So
they don't let you like zoom in and stuff?
No, like not in the actual cutscenes. There's like kind of in-betweener, like in-engine cutscenes, you know?
Yeah.
And those you can manipulate a little bit, but like the actual cinematic cutscenes you cannot.
So like you can't do what you did in Metal Gear Solid 2, where if you pulled like triangle, or if you press triangle in Metal Gear Solid 3, you can like zoom in and like you don't rotate the camera around, but like you can like move the camera box and stuff a little bit. You can't do that.
Not really. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because you have to appreciate Kojima's like whirling dervish camera work, where it's like weird handheld floaty spinning around stuff.
The like I'm trying like when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out and like the camera was all like dusty and stuff, and they're like and like handheld because they couldn't do that in Metal Gear Solid 3. They're like, look at how realistic. And now he's like, I watched Children of Men. I can do that camera angle in a game. Like,
Yep.
whatever, man. Fuck.
Yeah, because the camera work in Phantom Pain is very similar to the camera work in Death Stranding.
Yeah.
The only difference is I think the camera moves more in Phantom Pain.
I can
like
see
it's
that.
more acrobatic.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, because my friend showed me like Ground Zeroes, and he was like, oh yeah, here, I'll beat it in like 5 minutes. And so he was going through and doing it, and I was like looking at the camera work, and I was like, is this supposed to like seem like it's all one shot with like Kiefer Sutherland like awkwardly trying to do his best David Hayter? I've arrived here, Colonel. Like, it's not the same. Should have brought back David Hayter.
He should have. Well, Kojima's been trying to fire David Hayter forever. Because didn't David Hayter have to re-audition for like Snake Eater and Guns of the Patriots?
I wouldn't be surprised because David Hayter would have been brought in by the American voice directors. Mm-hmm. So, but it's just so weird. Like everyone likes David Hayter as Snake.
Yeah.
Like it's such a strange like why I don't understand why Kojima hates him so much.
Well, so there's I don't know either. Although there's
What's the rumor?
Well, no, it's just I was gonna say having Snake again. This may be some Kojima syndrome, but if you play Phantom Pain all the way to the end, there's a way you could explain having Kiefer Sutherland voice Snake in that game.
Right, but that doesn't make sense for Ground Zero. I mean, you don't have to spoil it. It's been spoiled for me.
Oh, okay.
So you can spoil it, but like
Yeah,
I was gonna say, it doesn't explain it for Ground Zeroes.
No, unfortunately not.
So.
I think he just doesn't. He wants someone other than David Hayter for some reason.
Even though David Hayter's literally in the title one of the title sequences in Metal Gear Solid 4.
I know.
Kojima. I don't know.
Yeah,
well,
Kojima does some strange stuff.
He does, but that's part of the reason I love him as a game designer.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. He's one of the most fun game designers ever. And the fact that he's like a rock star game designer and that people are like confused about that makes me sad.
Well, I think it's kind of like David Lynch. I mean, he's this rock star filmmaker, but a lot of people will see his movies and just go, what the fuck?
But that's the fun. That's part of the fun. If I wanted something like normal and boring and ordinary, I'd watch like, McGee's movies. Like I don't need to see like amateur hour on every movie. If you're going to do something different, like make sure you go all the way and do it cool,
Yeah. McGee. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
I know. I feel bad beating up on the guy. I actually genuinely enjoyed when I saw it, Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, and like Terminator Salvation isn't like the biggest piece of shit on the planet. It's not great, but it's not like the worst thing ever. There's a picture of Stanley dressed as Revolver Ocelot, and it's like almost perfect. Like, man, talk about missing out on your cameo appearances.
I know.
Special Units Foxhound Revolver Ocelot, true believer. Like,
I also like how the final boss battle with Higgs ends up with like that really awkward like old man beatdown that you get at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, where it's like they're both having heart attacks, but you have to like punch each other, and it's again, everything about Metal Gear Solid 4 is so excessive and overly long. Like the final fist fight with Liquid Ocelot is
so
like
worth
20
it.
minutes. It goes through, like he keeps changing through the different phases of how his character is in each game.
Yes.
And like it's
Or
playing
all
the
of
theme
the-
music
all-
from each
yeah.
game. And they're like throwing their back out and like coughing, and they're just like
Because they're both old guys.
both old. And then at the end, like you can only throw one punch every like 2 seconds. So it's just this agonizingly slow like bam. 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 It's just like, oh my goodness.
It's like everyone looked at that game and they saw how to incorporate gameplay into cutscenes, and that's all they got from it. And they didn't understand, like, as a tool, why that would be a good idea or why that wouldn't be. And so then, like, we had a bunch of, like, copycat games where, like, the final boss is, like, you know, like, you're just standing there and it's like the quick time prompt button is just flashing in your face. It's like, can I just let time elapse? Or okay, I have to push the button. And like they didn't understand.
Maybe
like,
I can
the
wait for
reason why
Liquid
it was
Ocelot to
earned.
die of old age.
Yeah. You just leave it sitting there and like Snake dies because he gets a heart attack or something. But like it's like people don't. Yeah. It's like people look at his games and they don't take away the things that are like actually cool. And just the things that they're like, oh yeah, maybe that'll work. It's like, no, the first aid stuff in Metal Gear Solid 3 is awesome. I liked that.
I'm trying to remember that because I do remember it was like kind of complicated.
Yeah, like you would have you'd like if you got injured, you could go into the first aid menu and like there were things like splints and rolls of like gauze and stuff that you'd apply.
I know.
And it was cool because Metal Gear Solid 3, like even though it took place in the past, it had more complex gameplay systems to reflect the fact that like rations couldn't just heal you magically. It's like, oh nope, in the real world, we didn't have anything that was that technologically advanced. So they used more technology to create a world that had less technology.
I know. It's weird that like Konami made this awful bullshit multiplayer game called Metal Gear Survive. When Snake Eater was the real Metal Gear Survive.
It was. And Metal Gear Survive, like I was almost tempted to play it to see if it had the same gameplay feel as Metal Gear Solid, but with like MMO type elements. But I was just like, nah, it just looks awful.
Well, because isn't it just like a shoot 'em up?
It's like
a zombie shoot 'em up?
Zombie game. Yeah, I think it's like a zombie shoot 'em up game with the done in the Fox engine.
That's so stupid.
Yeah.
So is the Fox engine Konami's property now?
Yeah, I believe so.
That sucks.
That's why Death Stranding was made with the same engine that made Horizon Zero Dawn, which I never played.
Well, because I remember Kojima spent years building the Fox engine.
The first version of it was Metal Gear Solid 4, I believe. So he's been spending that long. That was like the first iteration, and then Metal Gear Solid Rising was supposed to be on it, but
yeah, it was supposed to be like the completed Fox engine or whatever.
But the game moved too slowly. The Fox engine was like Old Man Snake, and they needed like that's why they gave it to Platinum, and Platinum was like, yeah, we're just gonna do it with our own internal engine. It's fine.
Well, I remember with Metal Gear Rising, the initial promise was it was like you can cut through anything in the world, and that ended up like destroying the game because they didn't know how to like make it feasible. So they handed it to Platinum, and Platinum's like, okay, we're just gonna make a Platinum game.
Yeah, we're gonna include the element kind of, but not fully. But
like
kind
you can't cut down buildings and shit with your
not
sword.
anymore, no. But like the demos of Metal Gear Solid Rising look so cool.
They made it look like it was gonna be the greatest game ever. It's unfortunate that it was not feasible. It couldn't have been.
It would have been like Katamari Damacy or Damacy, if you're American.
Katamari Damacy?
Like, Katamari Damacy, dude. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
Damacy, is it Italian?
Katamari Damacy, yeah.
Damacy.
Well, no, it wouldn't be Italian anymore. Oh, coronavirus.
Bruh. That's low. That was a low blow.
Hey, man. The little guy sucked up everything. I've actually never played through a single one of those games. Like, I hear they're really fun, but I've never actually played through the whole game, or even tried it out really. I know I should, because I like weird games. Apparently,
I was gonna say I feel like you would have at least tried a game like that.
I was thinking about it, but I would every time I would try to pull the trigger, I was like, nah. Well, maybe some other time. So, yeah. Even though the game's been out for like 4 months now, go buy Death Stranding and play it. Any last thoughts?
Nah, man. Death Stranding's awesome.
It is. It's so fucking cool. Well, I don't even remember how we end these things anymore.
Dude, we already ended it, and then like it was like a false ending.
I know it was. Well, I'm not going to go back and be like, oh, you need to subscribe to here and here and here. No, you know what? We do that once, all right? We're not some YouTube channel that's desperate for likes. We don't even have brand sponsorship yet. Hideo Kojima.
We're sponsored by Monster Energy. And Ride with Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus comes on the podcast. He's like, you guys are pretty good. Are you guys going to ever do Walking Dead sometime? Like,
nope.
I don't know. Can we shake your hand, or are you going to, like, flinch? It's like, I'm not actually Sam Porter Bridges, man.
Hey, man, follow Sam Porter Bridges' lead. Practice social distancing.
Practice social distancing until all of the BTs are wiped out, and then we'll connect together in the Chiral network.
Also, cryptobites do not cure the coronavirus.
They do not. They give you stamina. They give you blood, but they will not purify your blood.
They replenish your blood. I need more blood.
Give me cryptobites. I love that they're just like everywhere, and you can have 999 of them, and like in the middle of battle, Sam's just like chewing on cryptobites. Yeah.
I know.
And,
in
like,
the middle of like all those Clifford Unger boss battles, I would like hide behind a cryptobite like colony and just like eat them.
Oh man. Well, we just threw Death Stranding under the wheels, I guess. Death Stranding's awesome. Go buy it. I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
And you've just been under the wheels.
My brother was at Costco trying to get some baby wipes.
Oh,
no,
God.
Some baby wipes. Because his girlfriend has like a newborn younger sister. I think it's, newborn younger sister. So,
I thought that was going to go in a completely different direction.
No. So like his girlfriend's dad was like, hey, can you guys like run out and find some baby wipes? Like, 'cause we can't find any.
Right.
So he was going to Costco, and he was saying, like, you know, there are people, like, you know how Costco has, like, the party steaks, where it's, like, I'm doing, like, a Sunday church cookout, and I need to buy all the steaks for all of the church people in one go.
Yeah.
Like, people, like, everyone was buying those. And he's like, you're not going to eat all that fucking steak unless you freeze it. And then I just started thinking, it's like, this is turning into the Lighthouse. They're all just going to fuck the steaks. They're gonna get coronavirus and just like kind of like rub it all over themselves.
They're all gonna be farting up a storm, and if they don't have any toilet paper, they're gonna have to go back to using fucking pans to shit in.
I was gonna say, like, if I run out of toilet paper and there's nothing in the stores, I'm gonna start playing the most dangerous game. Just hunt people for their toilet paper. I saw something that's like, you know, if you need 40 rolls of toilet paper to last you through 2 weeks, you should have seen a doctor a long time ago.
Oh my god. I mean, it's true.
If I'm able to stay healthy, I'll be the next Sam Porter Bridges Strand metaphor name.
Gabriel linked rope.
I'll be Gabriel Stick Rope Paper.
Stick rope toilet paper. Carabiner. Fucking rope bridge.
Dude.
Fuck, dude.
Like, when it gets to the end and Cliff is talking about how his name is also a metaphor, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, man.
Finished.